that Walmart was paying once, but I don't know if that, based on that dollar amount, I don't know if they're paying over multiple years now or not. So.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, supervisors and Madam Auditor. Everybody had a chance to review the agenda? Are there any conflicts of interest at this point? Hearing none, Madam Auditor, if you would be so kind as to read us the minutes of the last meeting.
June 20th, 2023, Board of Supervisors met at 9 a.m. with Ty Rossford, Chairman, presiding, members present were Schultz, Dozark, Rossford, Mulbauer, and Heidi. Minutes of the previous meeting were read and approved. The board approved the resignation of Alex Harm, shop assistant in the engineer's office. The board approved change of wages for the assessor's office, auditor's office, sheriff's department, courthouse custodians. The board approved change of status for Paul Austin, county engineer in the engineer's office. Motion was made by Mulbauer, seconded by Heidi, to approve the bargaining unit and administrative employee wage raise for the engineer's office. Motion passed unanimously. Sherry Niedermeyer, county treasurer, informed the board that driver's license department will have a $10 convenience fee on any renewal ID or duplicate for out of county residents or do not own property in Crawford County. A motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Dozark, to approve the LEC Board Operations Committee meeting minutes and addendum A. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Mulbauer, to approve the letter of understanding with Gromwell, Bell, Kine and Company, PC. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Mulbauer, seconded by Heidi, to approve the following resolution. 2023-24 appropriations per department for fiscal year 23-24. Voting aye, Schultz, Dozark, Rossford, Mulbauer, and Heidi. Voting nay, none. Motion passed. Motion passed. Motion was made by Heidi, seconded by Dozark, to approve the bid for the storage under the first floor stairs. Motion passed unanimously. On motion, duly seconded, the board adjourned at 10:47 a.m. Agendas for the next meeting are posted available at the courthouse on Friday, 4th of December, preceding the next meeting.
Sounds good. Sounds like you had more to do last week. Okay, supervisors report. Did anybody have a busy week? Oh, Mr. Schultz, can we just start with
busier than any other week. Biggest thing to highlight was the yes center. So ready for their meeting. Still really working with trying to get some based on actual expense cost reimbursement from the state. Being signed, her and Tony were going to meet. It seemed like it probably, although they have differences amongst themselves, there's probably two of those first in operations. They're going to try to get actual bed space instead of bed management, such as just here again, like Sioux City Detention Center. Never been anybody in it. People standing around playing solitaire.
ones that are working?
Would you say that between Tony over there and Cheryl out there, these are like two of the most used detention center?
I think they're all full.
They're all basically full, but like Polk County, they've got 20 beds sitting there that could be used by somebody else in the state, but nobody can use them.
And that bed limit that we have, there's part of the issue, but Polk County, they way overbuilt back when they built that.
Yep.
And then they've never used them, ever. It's been just empty space.
You know, 20 beds have never been used there, but that's, the state's argument is that, well, we're only at 75% capacity statewide. Well, them 20 beds never getting used, so that skews the whole. So these are things that the chairman only want to try to get legislators to realize that something, whole county is not going to use their beds. Disperse them out to 5 to Cherokee or whatever, get rid of it, move them, so people can use it. They're painting a different picture. We also struck up we're going across state lines. So, Nebraska, state of Nebraska, like maybe Dakota County, we're going to enter a contract with them to supply them with detention, youth detention.
Yeah.
It's the problem with the Sioux City detention center that we can't resolve. They wanted to become, at first, they wanted to become a member, such as we would be, but their state attorney general just be a non-voting. We're gonna guarantee them 2 bed spaces unless one of the member counties needs it, and then they can come. Would be similar to everything else. But the rate is 225 instead of 175. They're happy with it.
Once we get nowhere else to go.
Yeah, I think the state of Nebraska is really trying to work on fixing that so they can. It might only be a year or 2-year deal with them guys, so Nebraska can get it fixed.
The thing is I just think we could do a better job at the state level of funding things to try to, I mean, some of these kids are already career.
Yeah, they are.
But there's a lot of these, I think you could probably, I mean, just look at how hard Nate works to try to reach these kids at his level, you know? And I know that with the council and stuff and staff over here, I mean, I don't know how much you guys got for council and everything. I just would like to see them, you know, and it kind of ties into Gene's mental health world. I mean, as far as it goes, a lot of these kids are mental health issues, and then they get in with these career criminals, and it's a networking system, and
Yeah.
and you know, I just,
Facebook friends, there you go.
yeah. So there you go. I mean, it'd be nice to see that. I'm sorry, Kyle, I'm interrupting your
Oh,
thing.
that's all right.
I have a slight passion for the kids. And more dislike.
Webster County approached us to become a member, and so did Clinton.
Webster will give you a full.
But
Oh,
we don't
Clinton,
turn
yeah.
them down. We didn't think it, they didn't want to pay what we pay, and this is what it is. Now that, don't want it, we don't need,
Are they a member with another region right now?
Webster is part of Central Iowa. And Clinton County, I think they were with Southern Iowa or Southeast Iowa, something like
Well,
that.
Southeast, wasn't that the one that got shut down, and then they were with John? Who is over there? Lynn County got their own?
Clinton County, I think, has their own, but
It's a pretty populated county over there. You have a lot more.
we've been actually housing Clinton County kids.
Maybe there's not as, get them away, get them out of there.
We're paying transportation, or they're paying transportation, and working backwards, and they just want to be.
Would that help your, 20 empty bed situation, or those beds have to be reserved for full county?
Well, they don't have the staffing to fill it, they
No.
can't. Whole county sending their kids everywhere they can find room for,
Yeah.
but they've got 20 beds sitting there.
So the 20 beds are because they don't have personnel, people to watch the children. And so there's kids that aren't getting served even though there's beds, but we don't have staff. And we pay how much money every year for the service? Stay,
Yeah,
which is the people, which is us.
Yeah.
You know, I just hated that.
but there's some of these detention centers that have the staffing that could take another 2 beds or 5 beds or whatever. And they wouldn't have to have any more staff, the whole county would have to hire more staff.
And it's more cost effective for them to ship out their more troublesome ones some of the other parts of the other.
Makes sense, spread it out to the ones that can handle it, so that you're at full capacity across the state, not
Right. The legislators now just say, oh, it's only 75% capacity statewide, that's not a problem.
In fact,
Back we're probably pushing 90.
I bet
Some
we're
weeks
almost
we're probably
back.
100.
If they were, some weeks we're probably pegged and over staff, or over.
Any legislatures actually toured these centers to see what the real needs are.
My guess would be,
I've,
just off the top of my head,
both my years, he set up multiple legislative sessions each year. And I've invited both of ours each time, and I always got something else. I said, we need to try to do it like right after session's over. Just in June or something. So that they have no committee excuses. Cause they really need to come look at it. You're right, they do. I mean, all of them. And, and Steve's on the judiciary, so and that's usually what's pulled him away is judiciary committee meetings.
and just thinking back even to season when they were starting their mental health, remember, they would have a meeting with youth, they'd invite the legislators and they'd never show up at any of that stuff. That's season one, I remember everyone being frustrated. Cause they're the ones dictating stuff, but never show up there.
Well, look what they've done now. Look who they, not my turn, but look who they put in charge of deciding how the money is going to be spent. People that have no responsibility to anybody's budget.
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
when you see it as well with the state legislators that we invite them, we want them to come to early child, we want them to come to mental health, these type things, attend centers. We have the ones who have their ear that really pull us all throughout the session for the lobbyists. They're there day in and day out. And kind of make legislation according to what they're hearing from them on a regular basis.
They didn't say that.
Right. And I hate that it is that way, but you shouldn't have to have a lobbyist for ECI or detention or any of these things that are just show up. See what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
But I think that's proven down in Des Moines, Washington, wherever. Whoever can make the most noise down there gets money, so through lobbyists, it's most effective, they come in and throw some trash cans around and, get people's attention and, get them some money so they leave us alone.
And that's why we see things like the all systems permit get passed. And
Bobby,
Wind turbines don't get the taxes rate everybody else does. Americans sure got big lobbyists that come in all day long.
even more than that.
Well,
Donations, they got it.
it's the pipeline, all that. Things like that going on.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's, other than that, people in charter oak must be getting answers. They keep asking when the bridge is gonna be done. I just keep telling them, diligent.
We ain't sure which July yet.
I mean, they keep plugging away at it. That'd be nice.
We were talking about, I talked to Paul about it a little this morning, we were talking about the dust control on the.
Yeah, he called me Friday and wanted to know, being that I just live out in that area, how many dust control spots or DI, I can only think of two, which is beams, carrying beams, and really hard, and there's only houses that are close to the road, they're on exercise, so.
I haven't heard Dustin complain.
No, and I think he's pretty close, but I think if they do beams, his will be taken care of as well.
Right.
Gets care of, but I guess, calling for, I don't know, regularly or a couple times. Yeah, that's control. As dry as it's been and continues to be, nice gesture to just do it even though we're in my open road or something. That's about all.
Okay. Mr. Dozart?
I don't have anything.
And then I guess to add that, for, Head Start, Rainy Peach Day is gonna be in town today. That's a children's imagination. Good. Well, there you go. You're here, let's see. Just got there, already.
U.S. Congressman, didn't you?
Good job. You're welcome.
Never pass up credit. That's the limit?
That's it.
Who's hiding?
So. Well, it was a slow week. I was out of town actually, so I've been kind of in meetings. Tomorrow will be my last mental health board meeting. And so what we're working on is this 2080 agreement that we're gonna have to change because it says in the 2080 agreement that we have that we will all have a vote. And so 2 weeks ago, I went in to kind of try to talk to Colin because I want our own attorney to look at it, not just take BB's opinion of what it should say, because now this is completely different than the 2080 that we signed way back when we all had a vote. And I don't even, it seems to me that until we get that all hammered out, the new board that the state has put together shouldn't be able to vote until we all have our 2080 agreements. But they're working on it. And I don't know if I have to go talk to Colin. Like I said, he was gone the week before last week. So it'll change a little bit in that respect as far as how that works when we don't have a vote. We have a 20-year agreement with the mental health for our people. So there's to see how that shakes out for us. But that's tomorrow. Yeah, go ahead.
What happens if this one doesn't get settled because it's not current and really specify what our relationship is?
We're calling in to see if he's got any answers about that. Because I did stop in, like I said, before he left for his training, and I didn't get in there this morning to talk to him. So I don't know. You would think that that would be a legal meeting if the 2080 is still in effect. And I no longer get to vote. How does somebody get to come in and vote when they have no belief that we don't have to vote anymore? So we'll have to see how that tomorrow will be. Probably a long meeting, in my opinion. Time and date has changed. It usually is hosting now. It's going to be at the courthouse in TV. That's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah. But we shall see. I know there's dissension among the counties that are no longer going to have a vote. How that's going to happen. There's big money that is being handed to the regions to be dispersed among to the best use of all citizens of the region. And I always just wanted to see that Crawford County fair share of it, and they're using the services when they need to. But as they say, with the civil meetings, we just can't vote. And I did talk to Steve, and I did talk to Jason, and they did not really understand, or Jason or Steve actually wanted me to come to Des Moines and maybe possibly visit with some people about our concerns. And I talked to Sandy Looney and see if she maybe want to come along also, because we all have the same concerns. How do you have? And I was just going to look up here how that all breaks out. A parent of someone using the services, somebody from the law enforcement, somebody from the judicial, just a completely different group of people, but none of them are.
It'd almost be fun to take that tail along. So you say, listen, this is something that's close to us that we could get our people to quick.
Right.
We have no access to because Rolling Hills doesn't want to talk to them, and we got things sitting empty. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. I did. When I talked to Steve, they said, well, do you want to do Zoom, or you want to possibly come down? And I bring in Thursday, and they said, well, I think I'd rather go down. I think I'd rather take. I thought about taking Taylor and Nate, and Sandy with me to do that, even if Sandy still won't have a vote, but she's still very concerned concerned that, the supervisors who have budgetary authorities, and they're elected, they can all vote no, it's still gonna pass, because we're the minority. So,
Yeah, the sad thing is, and I keep hammering down on our legislators, how it's affecting us. Jamie, you and I sat with the governor herself and expressed these very concerns. And Governor Reynolds flat out said, you don't levy for it anymore. It is the state's baby. Not all regions are good, play by the rules. I'm taking it over. I mean,
I guess I don't take no for an answer very well.
that's good, that's good. I mean, when we went
Be like the governor, don't take no for
Well,
an
when we went to
answer.
the top dog in the state,
I
and
remember
that's the
that,
response
like
we
it was
get.
yesterday, and as it gets closer to actually being in effect, I just, until she signed the bill, I kept thinking, oh, she's not gonna sign that. I really had to think about that, maybe somebody would get a hold of her and say, you would like, it's the state's money, but it's still the people's money. That's the part that I find hard to just accept, that we've given the responsibilities of making these decisions to people who have no allegiance to any of the people putting the money in. It's all self-serving because it's a service that they are using. It doesn't make sense to me. Somebody has to really explain it to me. And that's why if I went down and got to hear the pieces that play in it, I think it would make sense to me. But I felt defeated ever since it all. It's just like, we're affected anyway, so the money comes and we have to spend it a certain way. We don't.
I appreciate you, Mike.
Well, I just look at it as much as the DOT, get around Polk County or mid counties and the highways all nice and smooth, and you talk to our guy out here, and you got a request a roll of toilet paper. This is gentleman that manages the Denison shed.
Yep.
That's how I feel this will end up being with mental health. Everybody from here is gonna have to go to Iowa City or Des Moines or Cedar Rapids or something for mental health assistance. And that's not,
And even knowing that
And then we'll get it back when it's back.
it's just it's sitting there and they're having 1, 2, 0, people come through and, I remember my email, wondering about how many people from Crawford County had used it, and the comeback was, well, I think it's a irrelevant question, but they just tell her to answer. And I guess it is still
there's no
irrelevant.
that irrelevant.
Well, I can show you, they put it out to you.
But yeah, it's not irrelevant.
I didn't think it was, but, I guess I just don't have like one for all, that we put our money in, and just because we're not using it, other people can. I just feel like the money that the Crawford County people are paying, they should be getting some benefit. I just can't get it through my head. I guess now.
I think it'll come full circle. That's my personal opinion.
It will.
Because they'll realize that it's a huge failure. You can't ship them away to the urban population centers, and it'll be thrown back into our lap.
It's gonna be more costly.
And as we discussed, it's going to take, and what we talk about when we talk about mental health, we talk about people. It's not just a budget, it's a person, it's people that need a service, it's somebody that's in crisis mode, and there's nobody who, we'll still have somebody up at BB that you can do a teleconference with, and then they'll decide, and so it's hard to just kind of realize that
I feel like the state has really lost focus of what a region is supposed to be. I mean, the idea of the region is for resources, so we all benefit. Not for resources, so we pull up from the rural areas to benefit the urban areas that scream louder than we do.
Well, the biggest reason I called Steve is to see if I had to be part of the region, if I could just do a paid for service and do Mary Ann's our paid for service. That was kind of what prompted me the day I called him. And he had to call and he said, no, you have to be part of a region, you have to be a continuous county to yours. And so we're landlocked because there isn't one that is, on one of the sides of Crawford County that I could pick from.
What if the county did? What if the county said, I don't like what you're dictating to us, it's
We
overreach.
dictated to belong to that region and our money goes where the state says our money has to go. We no longer have control over, when we used to have $600,000 that we appropriated for charity defendants, if they don't spend that.
Legally, you can push back.
We never tried it. I don't think we want to try it. So listen, our money's gonna go into this pool of money, no matter what we say, no matter what we do. The services are gonna be in the larger communities, and that is the way it is. So that's the way it is. That's the way it is. Tomorrow is the last one. That's pretty much, all I had. That's all I have.
That's all you got, Mr. Mulbauer.
See ya. We're gonna, later on in the agenda, as far as the CDL test, we bring up, I know, we did talk to Leonard Legal, they had a board meeting, fair board Sunday night, Monday morning again. They are interested in moving forward and opening up a discussion about CDL testing out at the fairgrounds.
Good.
They'd like to, they're not gonna come in today, short ones for the beginning, but they'd possibly like to have Sherry and maybe two of us go sit down and talk details. And kind of hammer out what we need, what they need, and see, but they were very much that to be able to. One thing that was mentioned, they weren't necessarily thinking about the parking lot in front, but having a spot on the north gate entrance behind grandstands.
Okay.
And part of that was, I mean, more when we work with them directly, but they were concerned about youth, expo use, trucks coming in and just starting to park, just paid, where they had a little bit more control to shut gates up if they need to on that north end, and then also utilize it for concerts, parking, and everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, just some thoughts that they had thrown out there initially. Like I said, nothing set in stone, but I'd like to just.
And I'm sure you mentioned that.
Right. And I kind of told them roughly what Sherry had given me, but, just to make sure that all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Seems good to me. I like when parties work together.
So I don't know who you'd like to have as two of us represent us for Sherry. Okay. I kind of thought it naturally.
I'll be clear.
Whatever.
Kyle was on board. Be good working with it.
And I'll reach out to Leonard and Brian, try to set up a date where we can sit down and kind of go over some things with Sherry and you and I, and whoever from their board.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Excellent.
Then I got ISAC Board of Directors meeting tomorrow morning. MRCH hospital board meeting this morning where I told you, hey, grab me right away. She was excited about, meeting with different counties. She's gonna go down to Shelby and discuss what they want to provide for the opioids settlement. And, going to Carrollton, and making rounds in Shelby next. And making rounds trying to, make a region.
Yeah, making the
For
region
us.
for the opioids, stuff
Right.
anyway. Yeah.
Moving forward. That's about all we got for tonight. Okay.
Anybody got questions for Dave? A lot of time for me to fill, but I'll work on it.
I mean, you go on your time, I just threw all this.
All right. Well, I had a few meetings. First, I'll start with the NACO meeting I had last week after our meeting. Primarily focused around the debt ceiling. They're having their elections for officials. I didn't know any of the people. Really sound like pretty good. Seems like most states must call us commissioners. Anyway, the debt ceiling stuff, I took pictures. They go through them slides pretty fast. That's my new way of taking notes. Bear with me, it's awful small print. Well, I'd be wasting trees. Anyway, most of the stuff on the debt ceiling thing won't affect, the good news was most of it won't affect county and all of our recovery fund stuff, local recovery funds. Most of it will not affect that. Caps on non-discretionary spending for 25 was roughly 704 billion. So that was, some of that could affect certain programs that might come down. They couldn't elaborate on anything in particular. Includes new administrative requirements and eligibility restrictions while also expanding exemptions on some federal public assistance programs. And I think that's what they were getting on. There's some things that could come to us. Reforms on permitting for federally funding. And there's a really a lot of, I actually wrote a letter to Grassley and to Ernst's office about the permitting process and how cumbersome it is at the federal. And I think that's why a lot of times things get left down at the state level where kind of managers get through too. So there's groups that are trying to work with different senators and different congressmen to clean up the process, because some of it's overlap, where like archaeological overlap with EPA things, like, I mean, just different things that overlap. And so there's kind of just a movement forward to try to clean up federal permitting, which I'm always in favor of cleaning up. The thing is they add laws all the darn time and don't take away old stuff, and all of a sudden you got two things governing the same thing. You got an answer to both, but it's the same stuff. Different timetable. I mean, some permits take up to 2 years. I mean, if you were running a highway all the way across the country, or some kind of infrastructure all the way across the country, all right, I can see it taking 2 years, but when you're, most of the time you aren't working in stretches that long. So that to me seems to be things that need to be cleaned up. And then a lot of times, because it takes so long, like some of the monies we get time limits on how long it gets to be spent. And then all of a sudden the federal money elapses, and because of permitting process, it didn't get to be used. So that definitely, and that's some of the things that was some of the stuff that was actually discussed and put into this debt ceiling. Details, you have to read it. Sounds like there's a lot of big. Anyway, cuts to the IRS increases. They did some cuts on the IRS thing for increasing the number. Increases enacted the Inflation and Reduction Act. That was actually putting a lot of these bills are sliding these other people, like 87,000 new IRS agents. Reinstates federal student loan payments on defaulted loans by August 29, 2023. He didn't really talk very much about that, so I really couldn't understand. You're going to type in your question. I couldn't really figure out how to ask the question before the meeting was over. But on the student loan, I would rather see us, if we're going to fork out more money for school, I'd like it to be down at the lower school, rather than paying for somebody's college. I couldn't figure out how I wanted to word it. Why are we doing that first? Anyway, that was part of it. Public health and social services emergency funds. These are things that aren't supposed to be in. Highway infrastructure programs, aviation, manufacturing, job protection. I suspect that's for the air. When we had all the airline problems and different stuff that enacted, I think that's to ensure that money stays funded. Last week's, I'm trying to remember. And then this is on the permitting reform. I can already picture that. And then the work requirement things on SNAP and then on TANF. phases in additional work requirements for able-bodied adults without dependents from ages 50 to 54, and exempts homeless individuals, veterans, and youth aging out of foster care 24 years and younger from work requirements. TANF overhauls original TANF framework, moving the comparison from years. They were using comparisons from 25 to 2015, 2005 to 2015 to establish the framework, and then that overhauled that.
The foster care, they say that they're gonna have, you know, usually when they turn 18, they were out of school.
Mm-hmm.
Are they changing that now to 24? Is that what?
Yeah, that's,
That's not the rule, it's the 18 people.
I think it's kind of, if I understood it right, it's following along on the, you know, how your children can be under insurance and through college and stuff. I think that's kind of what they're trying to do with these kids that are on a foster care program. It's trying to, you know, some families are still taking care of them for college and stuff. I think that's kind of what, that's how it sounded to me. Well, in some cases, some kids are, I left for the Army at 18, so I did pretty well. I guess I really wasn't on my own. I had somebody tell me what. Anyway, that was our central region meeting. It was my first one of them I was able to sit in on. And man, there's just, because it's
How
got
big is the central region?
I don't even know how many states were actually, it's mostly like over to Illinois, I think. The Midwest over there, because Kentucky north, or like over in the east. Down through Texas, up through, and it seems to me it was over to Nebraska, Kansas. I seen one time, I seen a map, yeah, so basically.
Does it tell you how many people are on the student at one time?
You know, yeah, it did. I think there was, at one point, I remember kind of just clicking over to see it, because it ain't just supervisors or commissioners. I mean, it's whole bev, you know, I mean, you see auditors and some of them don't, most of them don't have what they are. I mean, mine said supervisor on it. Some of them say commissioner, some say auditor, some say engineer, you know, but most of them are just their name. So I don't know for sure what all they are. So it's a learning process. It's a lot to try to drag in while still listening.
You don't have to be an elected official to be on that committee.
To be in NACO, no. I mean, it's because like the engineers, that was why it was hard to get me on the transportation steering committee, because typically engineers are on. And it sounded to me like they're overloaded with engineers, and I said, which is great. That's the people that affects a lot, you know, their monies. I said, I bring in a different perspective. And then I do understand a lot about transportation. So that's why I said, I think that's kind of the sales when a spot opened up to put me on. Anyway, the highway infrastructure bill it's not supposed to affect things down at the county level. I mean, anything in this, all that highway infrastructure bill things that are supposed to come down here, the raise grants, which you know we already know about that. The raise grants and different things like that are you know they won't be affected by the debt ceiling. Okay, let's see. That's pretty much it for the NACO thing that we can make solid contribution. Then we had our CDC meeting. I'll pass around. This was their budget overview. I will tell you on the, I'm trying to find a director yet. We still got the one that we really like. He was going to cost a lot more than we were able to. But we actually they're interviewing one that they could only get in this morning. So they'll be interviewing him 10:30, which was also a very experienced economic developer.
Who's on the interview?
Oh, shoot.
So we gotta be done by 10:30, so you can get there.
I'd love to be there, especially since we got one. We've talked to some pretty good ones. We talked to a guy last week that, boy, oh boy, if we could afford to have somebody good for tourism, he was sharp on those things. He would really contribute a lot in that. And he actually threw out some ideas. I mean, he did some studying on Crawford County, which is actually probably only the third one of all the people we've interviewed that really seemed like they did some research on the county.
So she currently making a lot more money?
Well, this is
So why are they applying? Because if they know what the salary is, and they're saying it's gonna take.
You'd be surprised. There's a whole myriad of reasons they've applied for this. Some of them were looking for something that wasn't corporate hustle and bustle. The guy that we really had our eye on, he was done with the project, so he kind of goes around and moves the project. And he kind of wanted to have something that was a little more stable for a while, like hunting and fishing in this area. And so we had some things that were tempting to him, but in the end, one of them guys that probably got paid hundreds of thousands. We probably could have baited him in on a check, but then having the money to create a program or, it costs a lot of money to drive around and recruit people and, plus go talk to developers and all these things. All that stuff takes money. So, I mean, that's the other thing that we're kind of absent. And the stuff that we've been discussing in CDC about, what do we do to generate more funds rather than just gain membership? Like, the Tri-City Barbecue, I mean, there's options, there's avenues there where they could have been making some funds that would help other programs that they're trying to facilitate, whether it's other tourism programs or development stuff. And I think in the interest of growing it and keeping costs down, Evan never really went after making a lot of money. That's my guess. I wasn't sitting there meeting. I think Jean probably had better than that. She was actually around in those days. But I think that they have to do some more stuff to start finding ways to develop money. Whether these different events they have through tourism or having more events on the CDC side that will create more funding for them, more funding streams rather than just, and there's obviously things that have been happening lately where they're making better use of helping big businesses, whether it's Smithfield, Monogram, or some of the other bigger businesses, find ways to promote their company, through different events, the big rodeo that Smithfield's putting on up fair, different things like that these groups other groups are doing that. And so they're starting to do that too. Anyway, I think that'll help in the end, but we're still searching and I'm glad that these guys got kind of slowed down. They were like in this big rush. Oh, Evan's gone. We got to get somebody. We're not going to go backwards. Not very much if we do it all because we weren't doing a lot of developing. So let's get the person in there that this is what they know to do. And that was what a couple of the other board members felt too. So, I think we took our breath a little bit and we're working our way through that and going to find somebody that's, obviously you won't find the perfect candidate, but we want to find a good candidate. And I think we're going to find it. I really do. Anyway, if anybody's looked down at Woodbine and seen their new Ignite Center, I probably didn't think anybody happy with us pointing that out, how nice that sucker is going to be. They've already got Air Force and Air Guard. They've got flight simulators in the building down there for people to come in, and I think great project. But it gives us ideas on what we could be doing with our stuff. I don't think we get room in our new center for something like that. Sure seemed like a nice idea.
On the tourism part, I like your idea of tying things together across the county.
Yeah.
And that maybe it's a little bit of chicken and the egg. Like Manila just had their tractor pull, Rough Rider Rodeo on Sunday. How available is the tourism or CDC entities? And then they got to reach out. Towns got to reach out. Communities, whatever, social clubs like that. Is the CDC pretty able to communities and different groups for tourism parks? Start things that are going on?
I would love to tell you, yes, they should be. They better be. But at this point, I think that because maybe it'd be overtaxing due to the fact that their main leader's gone. I don't want to say that they can do a lot. That was the thing, you know. I just thought, like, using your tractor pull when you got a busy weekend. I mean, it's usually a very good weekend for vanilla activities this past weekend. And I thought that having a cook-off in a place like that for local competition, in our, Charter Oak could do one on Achievement Days, Schleswig could do one, on their calf show days, it would bring that in up back and forth on the calf show days being the same day. I get it.
And that's why I bring up, Achievement Days, Cafe Day, I mean, it's all tourism community wide. I don't know how much that CDC is utilized by our other.
I don't think they, and I think because of Tri-City being the same day as calf show days, that's something we're gonna have to do down the road. Figure out a better way to do it. I mean, problem is because of being affiliated with the Kansas City barbecue, there's only so many days on the schedule for that. And it's just, but I think we got to find a better way to do that. Work better as a county. I'd like to see things that pull them together, and then other things, obviously, like in Manila's bike ride starting Schleswig. Top of the county, bottom of the county kind of thing. I just like to see some. And I think that we can.
And it goes through communities and
Yeah, they gotta reach out.
as
You
well.
bet, you bet. And I mean, I just know that the two ladies in the office are there actually pretty good right now. And actually the board's been doing enough to help.
Improvement in the tourism coordinator reaching out to the smaller communities in the past couple of years. I've seen great improvement just as I've been on the board.
Anyway, sounds like the bands, if you're interested in the Tri-City thing. Paul, let's just come up here. It's your turn.
Yep.
I'm just jabbering. We can always do this and jabbering about things that I could talk about during. Thanks for that.
I don't have anything to throw at you.
You got a few things here, the construction projects, bridges, I continue to work on it, just kind of worked out. Some resolution here soon. But stricken forms and do other work on it, so. The overlay project, if you get a chance, it's really nice. It's pretty, we might have a winner there. Yeah, so shoulders look nice. So we're gonna do the shouldering around the railroad. We did the asphalt there yesterday. Railroad commission. I see why the railroad is very concerned about that. You're out there close to that railroad, and the train, because they don't slow down. Trains don't slow down. They just say, hey, you gotta get off. Get in a clear area.
Do they give you an idea when the train will be through?
Oh, yeah, okay. 5%. They've got representatives there. Okay. They go through training, and sit in our office, in my office last week, because we can't do teams for some of them. Can't do teams down in the conference room. So contractors, employees, they just want us to do it here because you have to do this training. It's a pre-construction type of thing, and so we all sat in there and did that. Went through all the concerns. It's probably all worded. It's just really time to get to that point where you can actually.
So they do a conference room?
We don't have teams for some.
Don't have teams on.
And I don't know. We didn't know that, but it'd be something perhaps to visit with Jake about. And have that on. Would have been a little more comfortable. We got it all worked out. But anyhow, so yeah, that works. Touch up that children this morning. The graves will be, the inroads there, was the last gas well, so we.
Keep moving on.
We'll be there next year. If they need another. The main shop, do that contract, insurance. Great crew, cranking through it again. Just keep on. Weather's been great, you know, so doing some great stuff. Yeah. How the air conditioners.
I did want to.
What they figured out.
I know the grading project, I don't know if it's pretty, like, I know, broke that. I've driven that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, maybe,
So anyhow, yeah, we rerouted. I don't think they did anything else, but 5 engineers from Florida. The air conditioning was broke down. Great machine. But anyhow,
umbrella
inside the cab. So I mean, got there, you know, finally, you know, they replaced the whole thing. And one of the guys from Sioux City wants just try to reroute the hose. There's 2 hoses. They were there, there's tractors. You know, there's a trough up there that takes it to one side, and this one and drains it out, and there's one that's up here, you know, and then there's a hose. Yeah. And so, as far as I know, they just sitting there, those hoses.
Somehow I had to get pinched.
What was happening, I think what was happening is those that came down, when they came out, they actually had to go up just a little bit, you know, even if it's that much, if it has to go up, it's defying gravity, and it's all works based on gravity.
Plumbing 101.
Man, there were 5 guys climbing all over that machine, they were all over that island, you know, resident pressures, and, you know, all kinds of things.
Was Jim harping in there the whole time?
Jim does the same.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah. How good is it that? Go out there. Yeah.
He'll take you for,
Yeah.
then he'll hand you the
I do
sticks
every once in
and
a
get
while.
out.
I did
You
last
know?
year.
Yeah. I mean, they're
It was scary.
rider comfort, so it's really good, you know. Just, yeah. So,
I might.
so they're actually finished up the avenue. Pretty sure they're moving to this project here. They kind of did the grading, 310th move around the corner, did some of the avenue, right over here. Bridge crew. Over at KF, Sonics is around. They had a structural plate, water was covered. Been in there for a long time, there were no headwalls on it. And so there were 2 utility lines going across. Utility companies today, you know, it's gonna be a month before we can get there to know what we're doing. So these guys dug it all out, worked on this, I should have put pictures of it. And then Tim sent me a video, so what we did was we dug all around it, and you couldn't lift the pipe out. The cables. So they just made themselves a little runway, and they drug it up. Okay, redid the subgrade, and drug it back. Okay, talk about anything. And then we put 2 headwalls on it, that folded. They had all of that in 4 or 5 days.
The crew.
Yeah. So pretty impressive.
Stand around and say nothing we can do.
Yeah, they did, and it'll be good now for a long time. And the good thing about how it is, I mean, it's in really good shape.
Made of good iron.
great shape. Yeah. So they're working on one on each end. That'd be the 100 Canyons project. So we'll get the first on that. Roadside crew spraying, mowing. Keeping things going. Try to, get all the roadsides the week before Memorial Day, the week before. So we started on that. That reminds me, week before.
We are, we're gonna come in on,
Just having a cash count on
Yeah,
Monday,
we're
on
gonna
Sunday.
No meeting.
two, so you won't have to, they will have to be here.
on Tuesday.
You won't have to come in.
They all-
We're gonna holiday.
So your holiday is actually off.
That's
There you
double.
What time we start the cash count?
Eight. Were we doing something this Friday then too?
Yeah, and two. Yeah, got loans, for it comes.
Yeah.
So
And that should take
that's
a couple
it.
minutes, you said.
Yeah.
That's why. 2 o'clock.
So Friday.
But you know,
You're good. And we talked about that we'd still have a quorum for everybody else. Okay, sorry, Paul.
No problem. So item 4, I guess without the bonds and the certificate of insurance, a good point. I like to do them all at the same time. So you may just want to make a motion to table that. Pick that up in a couple of weeks.
And entertain that.
I'll make a motion to table, the contract.
Motion was made by Ms. Hayden, second by Mr. Mulbauer. Any questions? All in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
So we built the pad yesterday for the new shop, so it's ready to go. So that's all ready to go. The next item is that bridge replacement agreement that I drafted. Pretty much, city approved it. I thought they could back some comments, but basically, I drafted the agreement in line with our discussion. Whether it's just kind of a, here's what we'll do, here's what we'll do type of agreement. So,
Do you think that we need legal?
so it's, I'm tweaking up all of these.
Yeah.
You're gonna do this.
I mean, the city already approved what you
There it is. So we're good. So anyhow, it basically, it just spells out really for the same for what. Yeah. So I did put in there, just so you know, that the construction costs will be split 50-50. Okay, so we kind of spelled out, that each party would do guidance here. This didn't really speak to construction, that we did show on there, I guess it was 50-50. But I'm hopeful that the construction comes in less than too much over the grant amount support. So, if it comes in 100,000 over, it'd be 50,000. If it comes in 200,000 over, it'd be 100,000 for each party. So so that's it. Just so you know. So I think here's the, there's maintenance activity, city shall be responsible for all costs related to bridge inspection, and, future maintenance of the structure. County shall be responsible for future maintenance, approach roadway, winter snow removal, roadside mowing, pavement marks, which we do already. Okay, so the city's got the bridge, we've got the pavement. Either of the activities, video cost more than $1,000, the cost of the shares. So you've got $100,000 bill, fix the bridge. We're still there.
Motion to approve the bridge replacement agreement for Denison. Replacement of the John Reed Railroad Bridge. Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Schultz, second by Mr. Dozart. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye, motion carries. Next on your list, Mr.
Okay, the modifications to the interest policies, basically, this is exactly what we did last week.
I thought it was good and I thought it was fair last week. She had put together and
Yeah.
updates for what we need to have. We haven't changed anything since last week on it.
Nope, it's the same thing, the only thing we put on here is approved by the board.
So I'll make that motion to approve the modification of the insurance policy.
Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Mulbauer and second by Mr. Dozart. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye, motion carries.
See how that plays out. The razor, I think I sent an email out to everybody that we did get that, which is great news. So, 2.48 million, and then the pathway state bridge may be quite a bit, for almost $3 million. Good for everybody. So,
Very nice. And
filling the shop assistant position. The ad's been out for over a week now. Got one application. Kind of indicative of what we.
Where are you advertising this fall?
Radio and any of the local newspapers, or not radio, but channel 18. That's where this application came from. And then direct mail and give those to everybody.
I was watching Iowa press this weekend. They had Ernie Goff, the economist, and Professor Hart on TV. They said Iowa's unemployment is 2.7, extremely low.
Yeah.
But they just have a huge worker shortage. So it's not like people are, unemployment is 2.7 in Iowa. Story below, we just don't have the people to fill the position.
Yeah, we have one of our partners, Texas. You know, it's just, years ago, we have cases for nothing.
our family size has shrunk so much. I think that's probably been a big part of it.
I mean, just locally, I guess our office professional is leaving. And we put an ad on Indeed, direct mailer, Iowa Workforce Development.
Yeah.
And, we had probably 12 to 15. So most of them, I'd say, 95% were currently in a job. You know, to your point, that's what they are moving, they're higher pay, doing something different. But, I think we only had 2 that were currently like that.
Yeah, so everybody did.
Oh, with that low of unemployment though, it's a good time to levy it.
Good time to shop.
Yeah, good. Workers market.
The gravel haul is going real well, so. We've got more trucks. More trucks. On the road, but it's not. Figure out where the trucks. Yeah, we just kind of capped it at 22, and we didn't go lower, you know, it was right at just about that number, but I think people just go below that. So we said, hey, we'll leave it 22 and go up, fuel prices go up and not go down, if they do go down, so, yeah, so we did that. Yeah.
How did you book any more gravel through James Stratford out of Carroll?
You know, I talked to him about, you know, that, he said, well, let's just wait, I mean, they're gonna put it up for us. And so, the goal there is to be, kind of on that line. I don't have a here, but, from a budget standpoint, you know, another kind of good news item is, that our last road use tax check over 500,000, which they're, generally in that 400 range, but it just shows that there's still people buying cars. So we ended up the year with, in excess of 435,000 in road use tax.
It helps with the overall budget.
Yeah. So, I always said if our revenues keep up with our increasing expenses, we'll be okay. But yeah, that's good news. And next year's, overall prediction or projection is to be up about just under 1,000. Relative to the predicted. But we're 450,000 higher. So they're always on the conservative, which is okay. They just sort of do that. That's what
And you feel like you got a Christmas.
yeah, just kind of, well, the problem is, see that you kind of rely on that every year too. You gotta plan as if it doesn't happen. So, because that could be, reality. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, let's see, the Martin Marietta tour, July 14th, be here at 9. So I don't know. Okay. Yep.
When is it?
July 14th. I think those were 2 days. We picked the 14th and 21st. Back to, so, and I was thinking there was going to be at least 3 of the board members.
I'd like to
Like
go.
that point,
Yeah, the Terry, but,
Yeah, what day would, what time?
you can meet at the courthouse.
we leave here.
Great
Okay.
tour.
Hey, here's nice.
So be the 4th.
I mean, yeah, at that point, I think we were talking about bringing other.
If we don't have room, we don't have room.
Well, I think if everybody wants to go here, but there'd have to be somebody. So there'd be 6. And then, Zach, Tim can't go. But then they have, Zach, Brandon, Dave Schmidt, and possibly Derek Boyle, so that'd be the 10. Yeah. So,
If you get another employee or something that wants to bump me out,
Yeah.
that's totally fine. I mean,
well, and myself as well, I've been there, this is my 3rd time.
It's same here. I mean,
But I think, hey, let's just go, this is a good group. So,
you plan on it.
yeah, I was kind of thinking about that. This is the Tech. It's Friday. Okay. So if I have 3 guys, right, 2 hours up in a bus or 4 guys, should I not have that as my trailer? I mean, because I'm and I said, this is for the 5-hour, 410s, because it's a little complicated because they're going to work at 410s.
I mean, driving
They
down the truck.
they'd like to go. I was going to take a pickup. I don't know. But I got to figure out, either they take a day, flip one, because I don't want to take it. Yeah. Probably not in the best interest of it. So I got to kind of talk to that, figure out what we're doing. It'd be great. It's a good deal to get them up there. Employees appreciate that. See where things come from, see how it happens. So it's a good experience. So probably going to put them on the bus with everybody else. You get that camaraderie. But it did kind of occur to me. Maybe.
Well, if that's the case, you got 3 more truck drivers right here.
Yeah.
Let's take a dump truck.
So, that's
We're
what
gonna
we'll
fill
do.
your Prius.
I'll get a bus. And then, the SS4A grant, we'll be submitting this on Friday. And this is it. This is the grant. No, it isn't, because they're limited. We only have so many pages. So you have to be really careful with how you.
And that's where you got help to write that.
Right, yeah. And, putting together the narrative, putting together, so it doesn't look like much.
So you submit that tomorrow?
We put a lot of time in it, Friday, Friday. We put a lot of time in it, very careful about the selection of how we, the narrative. And, so it's actually gonna be $8.75 million if you get it for successful year. I had a contingency number in there. Necessary, so we pull that back out. Still a big number.
Yeah.
When you hope to hear back?
Probably sometime this fall, October, November.
Make that one.
Yeah. So,
This would be one of them.
so that's where we're at.
We're meeting at the courthouse at 9.
Meet here at 9 o'clock.
We'll
Drive up there, and, I think over 2 hours to get there. So, if any changes, I'll let you know. So yeah. And then, so we have a little program, safety deal, and talk about it, and then you get in their rig and go down into the mine. Showing up.
We get a little helmet boy.
Oh, yeah, you get a helmet, you got a light on.
Oh, yeah, with the light on that.
Yeah.
We did it.
When they turn the light off down there, it's.
No light.
We have like even afterwards.
We have lunch. They hope so.
That'd be
Thanks for
fun.
lining that up.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to it. See where that comes from and see if I can get some side deals and train cars.
Give it a try.
Find the right guy to talk to, maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. All right. Actually left us a whole minute. I even robbed him. Only a couple of those things are out there. Just auditing. Ah.
I got a
That was easy.
message that Zoom sound is echoing, IT can fix it.
Leaves us open.
Got somebody, Secret Service.
Okay.
Suited. Okay.
Understanding us. They're having trouble. Messages that were going back and forth to people that are currently on. There was that, hey, I'm having a hard time understanding.
I can't see it.
So that's why I'm assuming Jake is on.
So you can see.
I can see the comments, I think the comments, I don't know if Bonnie commented, Karen commented, that they were having trouble understanding.
They said it was
Us talking.
They said it was echoing. Zoom sound is echoing. IT cannot fix more board in session. Okay.
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 So let us know.
Sorry about that.
I know.
I'm sure Jake can get her fixed.
Probably not. Probably a Zoom thing.
Next on our agenda, appointment of Dean Nelson to the Veteran Affairs Commission for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 26.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Schultz, second by Ms. Hayden. Any further discussion? All in favor, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye, motion carries. Discuss, take action, resolution 2325, interfund operating transfer to secondary roads.
So this is not the transfer, this is only, this states statutorily what the limits are for those transfers, that's all it is. It's, from general basic to secondary road fund. The limit is, so the levy limit is 16.875 cents, which is just over $216,000. And then the rural services fund to secondary roads is $3, 3.00375 is the levy limit, which is $2.766 million transfer. And this is for next year. Next fiscal year, 24.
24.
Yeah,
It's not the actual fund transfer.
it's not the transfer, but it states all the limitations. Statutory limits.
Paperwork. I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion was made by Mr. Mulbauer and seconded by Mr. Dozart. It is a resolution. Ms. Hayden?
Aye.
Mr. Schultz?
Aye.
Mr. Dozart?
Aye.
Mr. Mulbauer? Aye. Chair votes aye. Resolution carries. Next resolution is 2023 to 2026, transferring of funds.
So this is our general basic, into a general supplemental, and rural basic into rural supplemental transfers. The general transfer is for 600,000, and the rural transfer is 300,000.
That's from 2023 to 2026.
No, that's the resolution number.
It'd be for sub 24, or 24, correct?
Sorry. I go over to the line for it. Okay,
Okay,
So moved.
motion was made by Mr. Dozart,
second.
second by Ms. Hayden. Any further discussion? Mr. Schultz?
Aye.
Mr. Mulbauer? Aye. Mr. Dozart?
Aye.
Ms. Hayden?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Discuss, take action, Sherry Nedemeyer County Treasurer, CDL testing supplies. Please come forward, Madam Treasurer.
So that we discuss and take action in case if Mr. Mulbauer was able to come up with something.
Sherry told these guys a little earlier, I talked to Leonard Lingle, and they were, at board meeting Sunday night. They're very interested, but it could be win-win. You, me, Kyle, and sit down with a couple of their board members, just go through the details, what they can offer, where they're thinking about putting it, make sure it matches up with what we need. They did say they're thinking possibly doing it entryway, not the main entrance, because you can kind of, so they could gauge if they needed to. There's some other options that are reasons they had for that. I was going to check the one after. What time?
We don't really have all the requirements. We don't have anything other than what I said in that email.
So do you want me to wait on that?
If they want specifics, it might be better to wait. I mean, I thought right now we just kind of wanted to get something in place. If
Do you remember what the
140 by 60 or
some,
160 by 40.
40, yeah, there you go.
160 by 40.
yeah, once we got 160 by 30.
That can be blacktop,
I think it should.
Yeah, it could be gravel or blacktop,
or it
but
could be gravel.
He said it could be gravel.
They
They would prefer not because of it.
and it'd be easier to clean snow off of asphalt. Much cleaner.
But I think that they were very much, yeah, let's move forward. If we can talk about it and help you guys out, and it helps us by having an asphalt parking lot. They can utilize, they gotta be a win-win, but they just want to make sure that. Got their eyes.
So I'm assuming that the county would
For the asphalt.
pay for the asphalt, do you know what that would cost?
No, this is something we can figure out.
I think, just my personal thought is I think that if we went with rock first, so that we can settle it in for a year, and then if there's a project, we should have a paving project in the county close next year, where that would make it cheaper to asphalt.
And that was one of my reasons for the take action on here. I thought if we need to start looking at prices or a grand decision is made, we could, do that now.
Make sure everybody's on the same
But
page.
I
But
think
you kind of want to go to them with price, this is what it's gonna cost us, I mean, you want to make sure that we're gonna be able to do it before we approach them. I mean, if it's.
I don't expect that. I don't think that, my intention wouldn't be cumbersome,
I think if you talk to them,
none whatsoever. This
Right, we
process
need the
will be
space.
ours.
That's what I mean, but I mean, we want to know how much it was gonna cost before we take that on the county budget.
I don't think we have to prove that necessarily right now. We can still get a price on
That's what I
it.
meant, that's what I meant for take action, for getting a price to see what it would cost the
Yeah,
county.
but I still think we could do that. And
I think the action we would take is just to make sure that we're actually moving forward on this, to research all that information. And put a plan, tentative plan in.
and then sit down with their board members and work out a deal.
Are there any fees that the fair board can get from like per test, or is there any, there's nothing
Where are you losing per test?
that we're already losing per test?
Where do we get paid?
They're gonna get a parking lot out of the deal.
I'm just curious, from the fair board, like,
One part is sitting on top of it, figuring out, I know it might be 160 by 40. How does that fit in? Where do they want it to fit in? You know, it's gotta work for them as a parking lot. You can't just have it in the middle of
right,
nowhere.
Can't put a
Not-
number in.
Right. And I don't know, maybe we need a 2080 agreement with them to say we're gonna asphalt this parking lot. I
When we
mean,
get to, after we get to that
those are all-
point, we'd have to have some sort of a bid,
Yeah,
but we're not at that point yet.
We're in the, fact finding and preliminary layout. I think that,
so you're fine if I call it and just line up something. Is there a better time for even one of you to? Just to kind of, like, go through some of these details.
And see what they're thinking about putting it.
Yeah.
And even like,
you can meet
like I
up.
said, we may not,
Right.
maybe DOT would try and still approve ours, but we still need to have that.
We don't even know the details yet, so. Working it out.
I think it's a contingency that we can work on. And then, I don't think we wanna lose our ability to test.
That's what I think. This is my biggest
and I
concern.
think we want to make sure that if we do this, that we get approved. I mean, we need to go through this, you're still not a testing site, we don't need a testing. We don't want one.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking too, was bringing DOT in on that meeting as well. So that they can tell them exactly what the requirements would be for us to have that be a testing site.
I also don't want to get all the way down the road where we have it pretty well finalized and the DOT say, oh, hey, by the way, yours is good too. Waste the fair board's time.
No surprise. So maybe at this point, maybe just hold off for a little bit, you know, they're interested,
We're gonna stay in
we
communication.
stay in communication,
That'd
once
be
we
good.
find out. I'll try to push DOT, because in that one email, they said something about sending another person out to recheck our site, just to make sure their numbers jive. And if they give me the absolute no, this is not gonna work, then we can proceed with our plan B.
That sounds good to me. Cool.
Excellent. Well, I think we've got our marching orders.
That works.
Alrighty, thank you, Madam Treasurer.
I'm next to,
You're next. Oh, tax
Alright.
abatement, back taxes, parcels.
so,
Well, I'm not gonna read all them numbers here.
a little over 90 days ago, I came in and talked to, the board about the Thomas Johnson County Held Tax Sale Certificates that Sherry Vaughn was assuming. When we did that, once we had decided that once the certificates were actually assigned, when she got through 90-day process, that we'd come back in and you guys would abate these taxes. So I wanted to let you know that everything's been done. And I'm just asking for approval to abate the taxes on all three of those parcels.
Chairman, I'll make that motion.
Motion was made by Mr. Mulbauer, second by Mr. Schultz. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye. Carried. Next, tax abatement, 2051 U Avenue, Dow City, Joe Gordon, new addition to dwelling. That would be, our assessor. There he is.
So, Joe Gordon's adding on a lot more than what his house was, so, no Joe, he's got a wife and some extra kids. And so, yeah, so he's making a pretty big endeavor there, so it's, qualifies under the program, he's thinking somewhere in the $250,000 range. Having a very hard time finding contractors. And, hopefully get started this year and get it done yet this before winter, but, we'll see what happens. So, he did get his building permit. I guess everything's in line that I would recommend you approve it.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Hayden makes the motion.
Second.
Mr. Dozark seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. Thank you, sir.
Step two.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, next on the agenda is to discuss funding for city center remodel. And we take action if we need to. That would explain why our public health people. Okay. Ms. Hayden, would you like to?
Well, I think that we've discussed it, on this board for like a year. You know, that we just can't seem to get it to move forward, and that the easiest way to keep it moving is to take the money that we have set aside in the ARPA funds and designate it over to the health, let them spend that money the way that they want to, the improvements that they want to have done, and not have this board even involved in making the decisions on what improvements are necessary, what needs to be done to get them moved over to that building, speed things along a little bit.
In fairness to your efforts, I do believe contractors have been about 90% of the problem.
It's
And
been.
it's just like we were discussing with Joe, finding contractors.
Has the board of health been approached and they willing to?
No, we have not had a meeting, to talk about that, they're here now.
Well, we have that, actually.
Yeah.
That one, they were in,
Okay.
we asked to just, I got from them, that they would be in favor of, just tell us what we have.
Yeah, they're planning on both upstairs and downstairs and doing it.
That would be fabulous, because I know that we have people that are interested in renting space in the basement, but then in turn, like, renting back into.
We don't wanna, whatever the amount is, have just upstairs done and then the basement's not done, you know, you get,
Right.
try to do what you can for all of it.
Yeah, and I don't know what, but without having somebody come in and look at it, I don't know what it would cost. I don't know.
I think it's gonna help that Jake has his area that is on our fee on, and we kind of had to take that, because that was one of our bigger ones. People didn't understand. They would help keep that up.
Caveat on that, I was supposed to have a walk through today, and don't show it.
Oh, so
That's part of the requirement, but we are, is to show, so we can let them know what we want.
So, at one point in time, we had breakers interested. And then we were concerned that they just didn't have time to get their bid all put together.
Well, I heard, I can't speak to this verbatim,
maybe stuff down there today.
So turning the lump sum of money to the community health doesn't avoid the RFP. You still have to do that. So I mean, they just can't call an electrician on the phone and say, hey, can you do this?
Yeah. They could call one and see if they,
I mean, at what point does a public entity have the ability to go directly if we're not getting any bids?
we can't find a general contractor, kind of, the problem is not large enough for, you know, big.
Right, I understand that. I'm just saying, at what point can we, I don't want to say avoid, but just to get the work done, can we just go directly to someone and just pay them an amount to do
It
it?
would be so easy, because the concrete guy, they get stuff done,
Right, and that's what I'm asking. At what point can we do that? Or can we never do that as a public entity?
Colin mentioned there was some,
I thought Colin mentioned that there was some.
yeah, there's some avenues there. I haven't heard anything regarding that.
I think it's
Where
probably,
they felt it.
Maybe time to visit with Colin then on your.
But I think that should be really under public health boards.
I agree.
Umbrella
I
to do
agree.
it. It's not us to be the general or to
I agree.
decide all that. I have it no different than the library in Manning. The city council gave the money to the library board and saw the overall picture, but here's the money you use, figure it out.
Now, will this fund also include monies, will be the concrete work? You mentioned that multiple times.
because that's easy, that's outside, you can see it's cracked up, you can see exactly the wall falling in, and you can see that, you can see we need to have the windows redone, see that, the window back. We know we need to have the door, you know, but to throw that all together on one person's shoulders, seems to be a challenge. And even if we get that done, it comes down to the electrical, you know, with those 4 different meters in there, with the needs that Jake has, there's not been an electrician in Crawford County that, has.
Well, there's allocated generators, don't we have to get a
the
generator too yet?
issue. So, just turned into a can of worms, so I think it's gonna be easier to just work with one board, get that done, this is the monies we have, and, talk to Colin on how we can get off the mark on it, get it, moving, keep us out of it.
Public health is in favor.
They are, we haven't had an official meeting to.
Lynn, you're okay with that?
A consensus is what we have.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Well, if you look at the email Terry sent us on our ARPA fund balances, it's penciled in there, the large part is going to the tower project, but it has 150 to the remodel.
Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna cover all of it, or will it get us moved in and leave come another budget year?
I mean, it's just.
It'll be
It's what
more
we
than
got.
that, Larry. It'll be more than that.
It'll be way more than that, but that might.
The generator. was that-
Generator, I mean, what do you guys know, just out of curiosity, what size of generator are we requiring?
So we just, the city hall, did a generator, but we got 3 and assigned it to one. And my guess would be it would be somewhat comparable with that. The city has, the city hall has some gas furnaces, we have some gas furnaces, so it's not 100% electric. So I believe it was 75 or 100 kW. Which, there are 3 bids, and I'm not exact, but, 120 to 160. Somewhere in there. And that includes the concrete pad, the fuel tank, the generator, the transfer switch, and the wiring that needs to be done.
The wiring, it needs to be on.
So we need that big a generator?
Probably in the 75 range would be my guess.
Power the whole building.
Yeah. I think the jail was, 45 or 50.
Yeah, but they've got to be open. I mean, we've got to make sure that the electricity goes to your refrigerator. Yeah, back trigger.
So that would be my guess.
What shape?
Yeah.
What shape?
And Jake's electric for, see, because I mean, we can power the whole house on 34. I mean, that's actually more than I need for the whole house. At my house, so that's why I was just curious. Do we,
There's that power site.
I think they're,
That's just, that's like the full, but it's the two air conditioning.
John Block, but still,
I mean, we'll let you worry about it. We're just trying to figure out kind of the dollar amount in our heads.
We have 150 already kind of penciled in for our funds and everything else. I think that's, I'll make the motion to allocate $150,000.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
That's a great place to start, knowing that the generator is gonna be 120, we're gonna have to, leave room for that when that comes, right? How will we cross that bridge?
I figured, and then listen to this, we're gonna do this, and then by the time it's all said and done, that everybody's happy and happy, moved in. We could have built a new building.
Well, the generator
I'm just
is,
scared of that. I mean, that's why, I mean, I'm not saying it's not worth it, but for throwing $280,000 purchase price of it, $150,000 gonna knock the dust off it, so how far north is that number gonna end up at? But at some point, if you're weighing things out, you're at $750,000 here, and by the time we get remodeled, well, for $1 million, we could have been in a brand new facility.
but I wanna make sure that the generator is it put, cause that's something that we're gonna need even in the old building, don't you feel?
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like that is a part of our construction project. The generator,
You could say it's capital improvement.
in a way.
Does public health have a generator at their facility?
No, we borrow off the, we borrow off the
Fire station.
We
We run a quarter.
Yeah. I was gonna say, don't they bum up the fire station?
we're trying to improve that because, we have to take ourselves back to the reason that we have the ARPA funds is in case of another pandemic. And, we have the vials of the
Vaccine.
vaccinations and the electricity goes out, that was where that came in, that we had no backup to that. So we had to run it all out to the hospital and we're just trying to avoid
We
that.
do have a refrigerator in the fire station, that's public health.
Okay.
Our old back fridge
It's like
over there, in case we needed to do that back transfer if there was a power outage.
May have to continue to do that for some time.
Okay. I just,
I just want to, it's gonna be a work in progress, it might cross multiple budget years to get it finished.
But this is what we have allocated through ARPA, that we can designate as ARPA funds, and then move on down the road.
I can get behind that,
I understand, and
as much as our big tower project has started back in 2016, 15, we started allocating funds for that. And, I don't know if everybody got a chance to see that email that Greg sent out, that the estimated cost of the equipment. We figured it was gonna be $1 million, it's now like $1.6 million.
Probably would have been $1 million back when we started.
Well, I think that's kind of what the original numbers are. And that's why I was like, be prepared.
let's take it in a phase and get what needs to be done.
So we have a motion on the table for 150 and get that all. Okay, that's it for discussion. All in favor, state so by saying aye.
Aye. That's the number I have on my papers.
Okay, chair votes aye, motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda, Citizen input.
Didn't bring the bylaws with me, but the over 65 homestead credit is 6 inches tall. So my guess is that's about 1,500 plus
1,500 plus people.
application.
And how much per application?
Well, the first year it's a credit of 3,500, I believe, additional. And then next year, eventually it'll be $10,000 with the existing homestead credit. I think it's about $3,000.
That's all gonna hit our yearly revenue.
Let me ask you this,
Prepared
is
to
the
that couple
veterans,
years.
It's gonna
and
be tight.
is it one or the other? Or is it, can it be both when he's a veteran and he's over 65 or she's over 65?
So the veteran one, so the additional veteran is not reimbursed either, is it?
Nothing is.
I'm pretty sure neither of them.
They got changed, so it's
That's
not.
why I'm asking.
So the existing veteran one and the 100% veteran one. So the typical veteran one is like $68. It's based on the tax levy, but so the average for Crawford County is $68 per credit. And the existing homestead credit is $160, $170 based on, again, on tax levies. But, and so those are reimbursed fully by the state. Then the 100% veteran tax credit is reimbursed fully from the state.
It won't be in the future.
So, no, the 100% so far still is.
Okay.
How they changed that.
So now this additional veteran one and the additional elderly low income, elderly over 65, is not.
Those are exempt.
Those will be
Yeah, so
exempted.
they are done as exemptions and taxing entities do not get reimbursed for exemption.
There's no back.
Right, yep.
Elderly is nurse at 65.
You're there, Gene.
So it's kind of.
I hit him for you, Gene.
Eventually,
Just wanted to make sure I heard that.
would be about, what Dennis said, so $6,000 at hotel levy, $240. That levy.
Regardless,
A year.
they said that be prepared.
How much total do you expect as a
You know, we kind of,
estimated loss of revenue we'll
we
see
kind
in the
of do
county?
some things together and you know, I guess I would say 400 to 600.
400 to 600.
Wow.
Yeah. And that, you know, until it gets all done and get them all entered.
And that's Crawford County. Imagine what Dallas County got.
And I'm not, you know, until we get them all entered, Terry really can't tell either. You know, I think she'd have a little better handle on it. In her program, once we get them entered, then she can run some numbers because she has the levies and things like that. But
And wait, what's the date that they have?
so it would be for the 23 year, we could pay a fall 24 spring.
But the date is passed,
They have to do it by July 1. Okay. To get,
Does that get backdated too?
now they can do it again.
If they
You know, they
Backdated for
can,
what?
I don't know, I'm just
they
wondering.
can continue, like,
Start
So
with some
it's
year.
not this billable, it's not this tax year, the year that we're gonna be billing
Not the
for
year.
payable in September and March of 23 and 24.
It
It's
isn't.
not that year. That's
So it
what
won't be,
I'm-
I just remember hearing something from the state come back where it was backdated. I couldn't remember. who was that.
So they
Like
went
a
back
mechanic.
into after January 1 this year. Typically, they would pass something effective July 1, so it would be next January. So when they say they backdated, right, Terry? So when they say they backdated it, they passed it like April or something, and so they backdated it in January.
There's potentially 600,000 less in our budget just off of
So that, and that would be all of the backdating.
all of it.
Yeah.
That'd be all the tax.
It's not just us.
Yeah. And so it's,
Schools,
They were the small-
county sheriffs.
and that is a relative, I'm not, you know, that's no hard number, it's just what if I get with a shotgun?
It's a number that is eye-opening, I guess. just considering how you,
And we don't know what they're gonna do with rollbacks and stuff.
yeah, it's just the state playing the rock and shell game, moving it from one thing to another, kicking it out of their court and now into ours, and not back to all of it.
There's only one shell left.
And I'm not very
They're all
familiar.
empty.
Okay, all right, I guess we started with it.
As you know, I'm not very politically minded, but the governor, just got 1,500 votes in Crawford County, right? You know, I mean,
Right.
really, and the legislature, which they all supported it, on the shoulders of the local taxing entities that actually provide the services. Yeah, so, I'll call it the way it is, like,
It's gonna be our job to decide what services are deemed important and which ones are not. Because when they show empty,
It all started in.
And our 6 million general fund will only last so long.
Well, then by the time you get it all in, we're looking
Anyway,
for
that's a
65.
discussion for another day.
But we don't have time for that.
Yeah.
definitely.
We got people here that.
Well, we just wanted to get everybody Zoom line in a panic like us, so there.
Just some good things to keep. in
Thanks,
the back of our
Dwayne. I
minds
appreciate
as
your
we're
info.
spending money.
Tim, looks like you have something. You kind
I
of split
do.
up here.
The pipeline debacle continues. However, I don't know, visiting with Senator Schultz and Representative Holt, there's been some things that have been sped up by the IUB's actions, and I didn't know if the board was aware of all that as a whole or just what. IUB put out a petition, staff report yesterday.
I've seen that.
Okay.
I've been trying to keep eye.
It is 65 pages of Summit scope. I realize that I am looking from one very pointed view, but I guess, again, this just kind of solidifies my point that if we have 65 things that, or 65 pages of things that need to be corrected, and now with the ruling on the 16th, the IUB is moving up the hearing date to August 22nd. And in addition to that hearing date being moved up, they are throwing their protocol completely out the window. And now the Exhibit H landowners, that ones that are not in favor of the eminent domain, but it looks like they're going to try to, that someone is persuading the IUB to act on those first so they can find out what all those objections are from the landowners. So then they can present their side of the case and say, oh, well, we don't have to worry about this, which is completely backwards. Usually the petitioner who files for a permit says, hey, IUB, this is why this project is so great, and this is what you need to approve it, and then the people that are opposed to it respond. So this is a move up, depending upon how you want to calculate it or whatever, between 2 and 6 months. As I understand it, Summit asked the IUB that, hey, the reason that we have these over 1,000 parcels not being signed is because these easements are multiple pages, they're confusing, there's a lot of legal terminology and so forth. So we would like for you to bring up mediators to meet with us and force the landowners. Again, that maybe is wrong term, but that's my interpretation, so that they can be brought up to speed and all the information can be discussed. The landowner said, no, we don't need another party. We don't want to meet with Summit. We want no to mean no. If Wisconsin can get a pipeline through all voluntary easements, then Iowa should be too. Granted, Wisconsin's pipeline, that looks like maybe somebody put it out on the edge. But needless to say, it can be done. So why are we pushing for this? I guess my biggest concern after being a participant in the PHMSA hearing was, this is what the first responders and victims who went through this Artesia pipeline eruption. Their quote was, Iowa, stay away from the CO2 pipeline. This is not your typical pipeline. And the other comment that has, that I want to bring to your attention that has recently surfaced is Summit has gone on record and testified that they are building to transport in all their legally correct terms, a liquid CO2 pipe. That's their permit application. But they have testified that no, this is going to be a supercritical CO2 pipe. And there are physical properties difference between being liquid and being supercritical. It's complicated and it probably is a technicality, but as I understand it, the legislature did not grant permission to the IUB to regulate liquid, or excuse me, to regulate supercritical CO2 pipelines, only liquid. So
I've never heard of supercritical term the other day.
So if they, testify to that though,
it has, as I understand it, Summit testimony is on record. And so there has been a petition to cease the permitting process until this, if you want to call it a technicality, I would agree with you, is ironed out. My concern is we're getting the cart, in my opinion, way ahead of the horse. PHMSA has,
Why did we move?
I don't know.
I mean, what's the, is there,
Well, as I said, Summit has expressed to the IUB board, they want a decision before the year in December. They want a decision by December. There is the litigation from Shelby County that's not happening until January. PHMSA, when we talked with them, landowners said, okay, from the get-go, Summit has said, the County Board of Supervisors, you have no jurisdiction, routing and setbacks. So we asked PHMSA. PHMSA says, no, that's not us. That's states and counties. So the landowner said, okay, PHMSA, what is your regulation? Our current regulation is you cannot have a CO2 pipeline closer than 50 feet from the river. That's it. And they were asked multiple times. So then a landowner who apparently has a physics degree, whatever, he did some calculations and presented to the board. The smallest pipe is a 6-inch, the largest is a 24. If this were erupt, a 6-inch would have basically the equivalent of a 9-ton TNT bomb. 24-inch, 100 pounds per square inch if it erupts would be the equivalent of 45 tons. PHMSA designatees were asked, okay, are you comfortable with either a 9 up to a 45-ton bomb going off 50 feet from your residence? And of course, the gentleman from PHMSA said, well, there's a lot of things to consider. We have to think of the temperature, and the wind speed, and the ambient temperature, and what the soil conditions are like. Yada, yada, yada. And asked the question, he said, sir, that this isn't Washington, D.C. You don't have to have your nose on someone's butt. Yes or no. He wouldn't answer. So then another landowner got up and said, okay, I understand that at 2,100 pounds per square inch, and I believe his was over 10 inch pipe. I've got 4 minutes to evacuate my 1,500 head of I'm going to lose every office. How do you recommend they do it? And think about confined livestock facilities in some of the discussion. So then another woman was asked, what is your recommendation in the pipeline? And she said, shut the Ma'am, it's going to take my first responder to go 45 minutes to get to my house. I guess what I'm asking is that since all of the pre-trial information, as I understand it, for the hearing that's going to be filed on the 22nd, that needs to be filed by July. So that it can be adopted and so forth. I know that Crawford County has file for an intervention. I guess I'm asking, what can we count on the board through the county attorney, maybe to support or to say in that intervention, for all the citizens of the county. My concern of this too is that when I visit with my healthcare providers at the hospital, we haven't heard either. So I did call Erin up. And she said, well, I have to admit, we have heard a lot about it in Crawford County. So she said, I would have to check into that. I don't know if, I guess I would feel a lot more comfortable if PHMSA comes out, or when PHMSA comes out, and then this thing moves forward. But I guess from what I understand, maybe you can update me, the ordinance that you folks have proposed or have been talking about, you have the exclusion, as I understand it, that if I was a loading donor, there was some violation of the setback or the routing that you have set out for the county. If I'm in agreement, Summit's in agreement, there really is an issue. Is that correct? That's what
They didn't tell us how we had to put it. Kind of use the same thing, same type of terminology we use with wind turbines.
What did Steve and Jason tell you as far as that?
They didn't know anything about it,
I wonder
about
about,
the moving up the early date. They didn't realize that IUB had made that
They're out of
decision.
session now.
Yeah, they're out of session. So and when I spoke personally with Jason Schultz, he was going to contact in the morning and get more information.
Unless they're getting every time that, something gets filed, I get it on my, so unless you went ahead and hit okay to get them, I don't know if they did or didn't, they wouldn't know.
But I know that Jason was not aware of that as of the following Tuesday. We went to talk to Mr. Grassley's representative about seeing if there's anything they could do to kind of put a moratorium, if you will, on
Is that
the
Jonathan?
credits.
Did you talk to John?
The gentleman.
He was here last Tuesday, and then it's supposed to meet down in the conference.
Yep, yep.
That's John.
Did he help you at all? I mean,
He took my letter. He listened. And
He's good at talking.
is there anything during South Dakota that really the whole process?
we did have a regional meeting with landowners in the western discussion in South Dakota. But no particulars stood out. I know that the North Dakota people are concerned about this stuff being pumped in underneath their land and so forth, and making man-made man-made earthquake.
Seismic disturbance.
So, yeah, I mean, there's just, in my opinion, there are a lot of questions yet to be answered. And again, when we ask for safety information from some, oh, we can't give you that until we start. Well, the horse is out of the barn now. And it's gonna be a done deal regardless, and we're gonna be living with it. They say, well, wait a minute, this is what we thought. It's gonna be rolled.
That's what, in my opinion, makes it so hard, though, to come up with an ordinance that covers all of the check marks, because it's just such an unknown out there, what exactly are we protecting our people, and what, and that's what we talked to the governor about also, for that day.
Yeah, I guess what I felt after that meeting was that states and supervisor committees are empowered. You have power. In my opinion, Summit has been bullying you by saying, hey, you do anything, we're gonna sue you. We're gonna sue you. And of course, I get that. We did, let's step back and look at this. Well, why are they taking that defensive position? Because you might cause a problem or something that they're gonna make a lot of money. And I guess my next point is that if landowners are being forced to take this, then there better be something from the state that regulates them, because I get it. If there's a public utility that comes through, those utilities then are gonna be paying some taxes. Those taxes are gonna go back in, because I would love to have white rock on my gravel road. Guess what? I don't get very much of it. And I get more than a lot of people because we got the substation hours. Yeah. And, you know, that's gotta be a good road so they can get there. And so forth. The other thing I wanna just ask, and it's a little off topic, but I commend this group for putting together the ordinance on the windmills. That's our getting more talk about the new farm in southwest Crawford County since those ordinances were put in.
That's right at the point.
Okay, I guess that's where I'm coming from, is that in a way, you guys are in a rock and a hard spot with that, because you're supposed to guarantee our safety or look out for our safety. And yet, if you try to do that, well, then we're gonna sue you. Well, then you gotta weigh that against the monetary contribution and whatnot. But I guess what I'm saying is that if there is some show of no, that you are not gonna be the tail that wags this dog, what would be a possible solution so that there can be something on the books? Because the last thing I wanna have is someone say, oh, so should look out for this. Whereas if there's something, I guess, protect the courts or the county courts, and you say, hey, you know, this is what we knew, this is what the best was at the time.
Let me ask you a question. I've heard several different things on content of the pipeline. If it's purely carbon, I mean, I know everybody likes to reference Mississippi, because even I was extremely concerned after I read up on that. But that had other chemicals involved in it, so that's correct. I mean, how much difference does that make in the explosive? Most of it's gonna be from pressure, if it's just purely carbon.
And as I understand it, where the major concern is, the Sartasia incident happened because the pipeline was
Heavy rain.
dug into a berm, and they had heavy rain, and basically what happened is the soil was saturated and basically the landslide. Well, when that landslide and pressure hit the pipe and then caused what they refer to as a zipper eruption, because it just and this stuff is so cold that it's steel, you tap it with a hand and it turns like water.
Really? See, that's why I've been, and I kind of gathered that as I was reading some of that. And that was why one of the things that I was extremely worried about. And I thought we got some pretty decent, basically concessions, or if you want to call it that, but at least assurances from Summit that they were actually going to go much deeper than what was required, especially if they were going under our highways, under our rail, and then under our waterways that could have the erosive capacity. And then that's why I've even said, like, even the dry, which are dry now, but that are typically wet waterways, to even staying under them, because those are the ones with less, you know, I mean, the Boyer, we're down to probably hard sediment under the Boyer for the most part. Soldier River, we're down to the hard sediment. So getting deeper is going to take a long time. But some of the other things, especially when you're in the low sill soil, that's, you know, on the edge of it, I was more worried about that and that type of a thing. And I felt that they were working on giving us assurances about, not insurances, but assurances about that, by going deeper. I mean, they even talked about how far back they were going to move so that they could go deeper under the main roadway and bridge. I'm sure they were thinking about Highway 30 there because of it being wider and heavy traffic, and then the UP being down there along with CN. So they could be much, much deeper underneath those where vibration wasn't going to affect it. You know, I mean, that was some of my concern, you know, and I'm trying to figure out from both sides of this. You know, you bring up some excellent points. You know, I didn't get to hear, I was trying to Zoom, and by the way, we could find you in the Crawford. But, I was trying to stay on it, but I kept getting booted. I mean, I don't know, it's Charter Oaks Internet, maybe, I don't know. But,
I told you they're censoring you.
yeah, they're, I'm not here keeping me out in the meetings, apparently. But, I mean, these are definitely things that we need to consider. I mean, I really would like to hear, who's Lindsay?
So,
Summit representative, that would be my guess. I'm pretty sure I'll hear something after shortly, within the next couple of days. That's right, and that's good. I mean, they're not able to sit here all the time, obviously. So, I mean, I'd like to hear something back about, here's what I want is I want them, even if they don't end up going through your property, I want them to assure you that they're doing the best interest of Crawford County. That's what I meant. And I mean, is this pipeline any more dangerous than the natural gas? Is it any, I mean, we've talked about all these things ad nauseam.
According to the citation first responders, yes.
And that's the thing is, I was told there was a lot of other things in that Sartesia pipeline.
What we were informed was that, yes, you are correct. Whether, I don't know whether it would be even a smell detected that was in there and so forth. I know that this pipeline is not going to have that. And supposedly is going to be a pure concentration of carbon dioxide. But the medical reports that were followed up in Sartesia was even with those other additives in the pipeline, that wasn't the reason why people were overcome and so forth. It was simply because of the concentration of carbon dioxide. And granted, that is different in the fact that that pipeline, those people that were in charge of that made no effort to contact emergency management services. When it blew, they would tell you that we didn't even know we had a 24-inch pipeline. So it took them 45 minutes just to figure out what is this thing. And they soon discovered that they came upon the plume area and their vehicle stopped working, but the constituents that were affected, that looked like it was a screen set from an apocalypse zombie. Because the vehicle lights were on, the windshield wipers, doors were open. Obviously, the cars that were running, but there was none of the options for internal combustion. People were staggering, pulling at the mouth, crawling on the ground, and they had no idea what was happening to them. They just couldn't get their breath.
Yeah, I've been in hybris before. I know what that feels like.
And then I guess the last part of that is they had to secure an area 5 miles away. So they walked in with oxygen packs and that kind of thing and got people help and whatnot. But then as the plume left, they were able to use their side-by-side. They went down one last road. And this is the young man that was there as a victim. He was in a family car with two of his cousins, and they were coming back from a fishing endeavor, and they saw the plume. He called his mother. The mother went ahead and soaked the rags and towels and put them around the threshold of the doors and the windows and so forth. Fortunately, they were not
In the window.
in that process. But when the first responders got there, they took his pulse. He had 4 beats a minute, supposed to have 14 to 20. And the other two were less responsive than the 4 beats, so they kind of make a quick decision, what do we do here? And they said, well, we leave them here, they're going to be dead. So he said, we're not, the first responders, he said, we're not proud of the fact, but he said, all we have is a side-by-side vehicle. So he said, we basically loaded them up like 3 dairy carcasses, and 2 guys were in the back kneeling, and they held on to the roll cage and got them shoveled out. Well, unfortunately, the young man has brain damage from oxygen deprivation. He can't work, can't drive. When he was making his comments, was kind of looking down. He looks up and get distracted, and then reboot. I don't know what he's saying, what is that? So this is, as the first responder said, this is not your ordinary pipeline. And then the other one said, I would say, Kyle,
you're probably our most experienced fireman on the board. Like when if we would craft a ordinance of types, I mean, I'm looking, you know, best case, worst case scenario, all case scenarios. I think that's what we have to look at here, because for every one of you that comes and says we don't want a pipeline, we have them, you're not gonna do anything to stop that pipeline. We're getting that too. I mean, I get them on the street.
But to be real honest with you, as I understand it at this point, if landowners have already signed, and again, I can't be a hypocrite. I can't come to this meeting and say, ban this, because if they want that on their land and I have the land rights, I have to respect it. Okay, but as I understand it, for those that have signed, this, any ordinance that you put in after whatever date, they're already in. They want to be in, they're already in. My concern is I know for a fact that there are landowners that were told, oh, if you don't sign, it's going to be the demise of the ethanol industry. Do you want to go back to $1.87 corn?
Yeah, I get that. I mean,
Okay.
I get all the scare tactics
Right,
from both
right.
sides. I mean,
But
both
now,
sides have their scare tactics.
After they've been educated and they hear about the safety stuff, it's like, whoa, I didn't know this thing could be a problem.
Well, then here's my original, my point. Is it possible for us to craft into an ordinance that anybody that would have a pipeline, in particular a pipeline like this, we could mandate that there be a yearly training for our fire services to be able to attend. Not only would that give them training that they need, and they already said they do training, but that would remind everyone that exists out there. So in 20 years, we don't forget that we have a carbon pipeline. You see what I'm getting at? I mean, those are some other things. I'm just throwing some things out there that maybe this is something we need in an ordinance, you know, on top of anything else, in the event that we do have it. You know, you're wanting to know if we'll craft a pipeline ordinance. So you're doing it from the assumption that, I mean, if we weren't going to get one, we wouldn't need one, right? But if we need one, you're just assuming that there's a good chance that it'll come, and you're wanting to protect, obviously your ground, but you're also wanting to protect the residents of Crawford County. That's our primary concern, is protecting all the residents of Crawford County, even the ones that already agreed to it that may not at this point realize that we got to worry about that. And it's nice because you're bringing that to our attention. I actually got I got an email from one of the people you've talked to recently, and they were asking the same thing you brought up about what Aaron said, is I really don't know the middle ground. I mean, I know what the extreme sides are saying, and I shouldn't say extreme, but the opposing views are saying. Is there anybody that's impartial? At this point, I don't know who. I think our board's trying to stay as impartial as possible so that we can make good decisions based for the whole county. And that's what I informed this person. You know, I mean, that's what we're trying. You know, so because we do get people that want it, we got people that don't want it, we got people that don't care. I mean, there was one person in the county that said, I don't care if it comes up Main Street. It's no different. It's no more dangerous than the other pipeline. Now, your research seems to tell us that's not necessarily the case. So I like these because then I'll get a call from them, and so then you can try to balance the scale. And I think that's what the 5 of us are trying to do. And you know, if there's an ordinance that we have to craft, you know, that be something like that, you know, mandatory trainings, you know, because it's a hazardous pipeline. I mean, you know, to me, those are things that I think everybody could live with. It's looking at, I don't want anybody. Like I said, when you were talking about it sucking your hair, I mean, you go through anhydrous, it does the same dang thing to you. You know, and I know what that felt like. Well, that's panic in your heart when you feel that. You know? And I mean, I'd like to alleviate those problems. So I mean, these are things that we probably can look at. You know, and I'd like to do it, and even with Summit's help, because yeah, they're going to make money. That's America. Welcome to America. Everybody's trying to make money with their investment. You know, I'm not going to hold that against you. I do believe, you know, I have trouble with eminent domain on private projects. I don't think I'm any different than a lot of people. And so,
Especially when there's a law already on the books that states that.
yeah, and I get it. So I mean, but I'm what we have to do as this board, in my opinion, I'm one of 5, but I think that we all feel about the same, is we got to look at best case, worst case scenario, I mean, if it's coming here, we gotta be prepared. And, but in the meantime, I think that we can try to do things that, that protect your property rights, or as best possible, or protect a future catastrophe. I mean, that's safety, I get it, and they save limbs and take care of safety, but, to say that you gotta give our firemen through EMA, you gotta give us a yearly training. Basically, it does two things. It get new firemen, they get fresh training from the professionals. Plus, it just reminds the communities that that's here. You brought up that people didn't even know they had a pipe. Well, that's what brought to my head just immediately. We got to figure out a way that reminds everybody that it's here for 25, 50 years or whatever, however long it lasts.
And I guess that what I would dovetail onto that is currently there's 5,000 miles of CO2 pipeline in the United States. Through the Inflation Reduction Act, you want to have over 100,000. So this thing is only going, I mean, I guess what my fear, and usually I'm not a naysayer and doom and gloom guy, but my fear is that, once you have a mouse in your house, you typically have two, and those two reproduce pretty darn quickly. So unless you get to the front of the problem, you're going to have a mouse full of, or you're going to have a house full of mice. If this corridor is approved and they have the sole say of what they can put in that, how many more pipelines do we want? And will it be coming from a different area to hook maybe onto the one that potentially is going to be in Crawford County? So I guess from that standpoint, my question about the windmills was that, thank goodness, you've got that in place. So whether the windmill farm company is looking at,
I think they'll still, as far as the windmills go, I do believe that someday they'll still come.
okay,
But we just
now
gave you guys the bar.
You guys are in the
The driver.
driver's seat here.
Exactly.
And I guess that's where I've been coming from, is that, and especially now that PHMSA says, whoa, wait a minute. No, it's the states and the counties that determine routing and setbacks. So if this, I guess,
So we gotta decide.
if we don't get in
IUB would
first,
probably do the routing.
no, I don't think so. If you have a setback in your county that you wanted X number of miles or whatever from your city limits or from a development project, very similar to what Shelby County is doing, that's your city.
Good point. Okay.
So and okay, so if we're talking about this ordinance, which I appreciate, what is the latest that you've heard from the soil? Yeah, or the redoing, because we've been assured by Summit, oh, Jim, that soil is going to be in better shape than when we started digging. And if you believe that, I've got some prime bottom ground in Florida that I'd love to sell you as well, Rick. Because I guess where I'm coming from, I farmed for 7 years, property just east of Yellowstone Park. It's a wonderful project. It's a wonderful addition to our county and community. But unfortunately, I had a landowner who was absentee, and anytime they wanted to do something to reduce the sedimentation of the lake, oh yeah. Well, then I was the one that got left to deal with that. Fortunately, the contractor many times who got the bid was my uncle, and we could negotiate, if you will, of, hey, no, you get down to that model play, and then you can start putting in whatever project is. Oh, that good topsoil and spread back over. It never responded in the time in which I was there, and I know from another project right across from your father's property, we knowingly and willingly sold the fill off the hill that was a goat pasture so that it could be used for the extension of the WAPO substation. It was improvement, in my opinion, to our property. But to this day, you can see right around on the contour where all of that soil was, and again, that was the same process. All the good topsoil and so forth was put back. but it just takes years to rebuild that soil. And that's my concern.
Well, and that's the thing is I think that, you know, you have to work out that, you know, with your experience, you gotta work that out if you do a contract. You know, our guys do, our grade crew they do dirt work. Now, they don't dig as deep as with the pipeline, but they do dirt, and I don't know that yeah, but it's my experience, at least it appears to be, when I go back and drive through where they worked last, the crop looks, I mean, I don't know what the yields are of it, but it looks nice and even up through those fields, you know, I mean, so I believe that you can put it back. It's just making sure that you do it right, and that these crews got your land's value, you know, the fertility of your land at heart, and hopefully that's one of the reasons we went with Sunquist. We got a engineers establishment that their heart's in Crawford County too, so they're going to be on them through the whole way through the job, you know, and somebody that you can, as they're on your land, assuming they would be, you know, you can sit there herping Troy's ear. I don't think that's right, Troy. What do you think? You know, and you see what I'm getting at? You get somebody that's basically already in your team that's going to be there inspecting them on every step of the way. Cindy does. Oh, yeah. Cindy, if you don't mind, Tim, we'll let Cindy jump in here.
If Tim is finished, I just wanted to get in line. I just had a couple things. It's really hard to hear you guys today, so I apologize if this is repeat information. First of all, to follow up a couple weeks ago when I was there with the dry ice in the water for the capture facility, when the carbon dioxide goes over to the dry ice carbonics, it's in liquid form. It's not in the supercritical form like Tim was talking about earlier. It's the supercritical. When they needed to get to that state of matter, that's what is taking the extra water. So the dry ice would not have the same use of that water. So I wanted to follow up on that and explain that. And I don't know if Riley got back to you how much extra water it's going to take for the Denison plant or not. But I just wanted to make sure that you knew that it went over there in the liquid state. See, dry ice is made from liquid CO2, not supercritical. The second thing, at the PHMSA meeting, it was said that they do not determine the routing of the pipeline. Summit has said that counties can't do it, and the IUB says they don't do it. So we left the PHMSA with saying like exactly who does do it. And they told us it was the county and local folks that determine the routing. So it's no one else is going to protect us. I'm sorry, Tyre.
Did tell you that? I just wanted to interrupt because I want to clarify that.
Yeah. That was at the PHMSA meeting that came up about the routing. PHMSA is strictly for the oversight of construction and the operation of the pipeline, nothing else. So, and then the IUB has said that they don't do it, that it's the county and local authorities that have. That's why Summit is such in a hurry to sue all the counties, because they want to keep that control with them. So, and then let's see, the other thing, Tim, not to call you out on this, but it was actually Minnesota that did the 100% voluntary easements, not Wisconsin. I think we just, in case you're, and then I wanted to make sure that did Tim bring up about the elderly landowner that we had questions yesterday? I don't know. Okay, I got called yesterday by the son of a landowner in Crawford that 85 years old, and was told that he had until yesterday to make, it was a final offer. He was not going to get any more money. If they didn't take it, he was probably going to get nothing. So very upset about it, wanted more information. So unfortunately, Frontier was down on my landline and I could not get out of my cell. So thankfully, Tim was able to get a hold of him and talk to him. My phone came back up about noon and I called him and he goes, well, I told him, no, I was not going to sign. I was just going to to wait because I needed to know more information about this pipeline. I hadn't heard any of the safety things, anything. He said, and then about an hour later, they called back and they extended that deadline to Friday at 5. So just the tactics that they're using on people, I think is despicable. They knew he was an elderly gentleman. They knew he didn't have access to internet, to information. So I just wanted the board to be aware that they're still doing it. So people who have not signed on with the Domina Law Service are still being harassed in Crawford. So those are the things I wanted to touch on. Thank you for your time. I hope you can understand me. I think I can hear Ty and we can hear Tim. It's Gene and everybody else who's muffled. So Jacob said he was going to work on it after the meeting.
And we typically don't muffle Gene, but we've tried a time or two. But
Thank you.
hey, do you got a question?
Hello?
Bonnie,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I had my hand up, but I'm not sure how that works. Yeah, I just want to thank Tim for speaking this morning and thank the board for listening. I know that you're caught between a rock and a hard place because there's really two opposing sides on this. I do want to point out that I've heard you say we have 85% of the county signed, so that means the majority is in favor of this. And I would disagree with that because we hear from many, many people who signed just because they feared eminent domain and they really don't want this pipeline. So just keep that in mind. And also regarding Minnesota, Summit's bragging that they have 100% signage in Minnesota. For one thing, it's just a very short line there, not 700 miles. And also, Minnesota does not allow eminent domain for this sort of thing. So if you look at the map of the pipeline route in Minnesota, it's like a snake. It's going around the people who do not want eminent domain. And I wish that could happen in Iowa, but it seems that it's not. So we'll deal with it. But I just wanted to point that out. And I also would like to ask if you could please make note in the minutes about citizen input and the issues that we're bringing before the board, just so there's a record of it.
On the minutes, you mean?
Yeah, in the minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bonnie. I see no further questions. Is everybody covered out in Zoom land? Is there any other questions out in Zoom land? We got Jake looking awful dapper up there. Okay. Now Bonnie's already asked hers.
So I guess to completely close the circle here.
Okay.
July 10th is when action, in my opinion, or from what I understand, needs to have taken place. I realize that gives you how many board meetings? One board meeting. So I do not be rude, but it's kind of time to poop or get off the pot. And if nothing is done, then I'm not sure what that means. I guess at the least, I would request that there be a positive intervention statement so that if Crawford is called, there is a response and we have someone willing and ready to give that response. Best case scenario, the consideration of what kind of an ordinance. I guess what I'm saying is if you file the ordinance and you get sued and this thing gets through eminent domain and it gets continued to be steamrolled, I guess you can always withdraw your ordinance and then there's nothing to sue you for.
We couldn't even have an ordinance ratified in
By
one
the
board
10th.
meeting.
No,
By the 10th. Not by the 10th.
With public notice and everything.
permitting's about all we could pull off that fast.
Yeah, unfortunately.
What makes the
Well,
10th
okay, now
the
wait a
number?
minute.
Okay, maybe I misspoke. The intervention, I believe, needs to be filed by July 10th.
Yeah, we're already in.
The ordinance,
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
ordinance,
that's why
as
I
long
was-
as that is enacted before the 22nd.
okay.
Is,
Oh,
I'm sorry, I'm.
Of August.
So
Of
Tim-
August.
If I could ask you, if you were gonna write an ordinance, you know, just, what exactly would you, what would you want that to say? Just to help us through the weeds of it all, what things,
I guess what I'm thinking is that Shelby County has gone through the time and expense of their ordinance. I believe that this board has looked into that. I know that there are some concerns, legal ramifications, whatever. But I think that was under the guise of, well, PHMSA is the one that's gonna be having the final say. Right now, PHMSA doesn't have the final say.
Yeah.
You do.
It was under the guise that PHMSA would have any rebuttal to safety, safety ordinance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, we were told that the safety aspect couldn't be part of us.
Well,
And even,
there,
And he-
as I understand it, PHMSA, the only safety thing they have or a CO2 pipeline is it can't be closer than 50 feet to a residence.
right,
They're proposing that they're gonna have additional safety, but they don't have it. So everybody's backside is exposed on this deal.
yeah.
And
so would you want it to be setbacks? Is that what we should, would that help?
I guess what I'm thinking is that if there's something that we want to protect,
Right,
because if we're gonna go 2 miles from these various, whether it's schools, playgrounds, nursing homes,
Right.
hospitals, whatever, right now, as I understand it, the pipeline is not gonna be 2 miles from the hospital.
No.
To get to the hospital, if you're coming from the western portion of the county, you're gonna have to either go along the river, which is a low-lying area, and that's where CO2 is going to continue to reside unless the wind blows it out. You're gonna have to come through Power Dive Hill to get to the hospital. That's a low-lying area, and if the pipeline is going in that vicinity, then how much more of a concern is that going to be to get to that center that's providing emergency care? I realize that we have our ethanol plant that is within that distance as well. But they've already signed an ordinance, or excuse me, they've already signed an easement.
and aren't they now gonna be the pumping stations? We're no longer gonna have pumping stations?
Well, I don't know,
Well,
because,
see, that's the other
you know,
part of it.
you ask a question and it's like, oh.
I don't know that
talk
they'd be a
about
pump
shifting the
station
nuts
unless
around.
they hook on.
Well, that kind of.
I don't know that.
Well, I was under the impression that they had a 10-year contract with the carbon dioxide plant.
Yeah.
And until that contract expires, they're not, but they've gone ahead and signed up so that that's an opportunity in the future.
Somewhere I had heard that the pumping station is gonna move and it's gonna be at, for counties that have ethanol plants, those are gonna now be the pumping stations. Like, maybe you should.
I
don't know.
can't deny or verify.
So in an
I
effort
don't know
to,
about
to try to fill, I think that we all have a question on what do we need it to say? Do we want it to be 2 miles from an existing city? But then people that live out in the country say, well, we need protection too. Why are you just worried about the people in the cities? You know, if they can have it 50 feet from a residence, how do we, you know, protect that it's not gonna be a bomb 50 miles from somebody's front door? Even if they've already signed that, come on my property. So I think we need help fashioning this thing so it actually protects all of the things that you have learned through your various, you know, fact-finding information that we, you know, we find out, thankfully, you're coming forward and helping us with it.
I guess what I'm saying is that since the Shelby County template is already in place,
Uh-huh,
if those setbacks, if that routing concern or whatever falls in line with what you feel is appropriate, I guess I'm thinking that that's something to start with.
start with
Because
that.
you can always amend an ordinance. If something doesn't work, you don't
Yeah,
like it,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
always that time to fix it. But from what I understand, if there's nothing there, it's kind of like writing a blank check to the
I've heard that
future,
too.
to the future pipeline companies
Crawford County is open.
who, yeah.
I know.
And if you want to have some control, and I guess that's maybe what I'm thinking needs to be here, is that then we gotta get something on the books.
And that's
And if
exactly
it
what.
doesn't, I mean, if it becomes a moot point, you repeal the ordinance and there's nothing to be done with it.
That's where me, Tim, and I know this never happened, but how you said in Minnesota, it jigs up and around, it goes wherever. The ordinance shouldn't have, because we have those people that come and say, an ordinance will take it off my farmland, and I want to, I don't care. But if each individual landowner had the right to say that, eminent domain doesn't apply, you can't use it, it would naturally go where people wanted it. Without,
But don't you already have in there that if you want it and the pipeline company is willing to put it on your property, even if it violates one of those setbacks or routing provisions? Haven't you started that language or whatever in your ordinance that that's just a matter of those two parties going before the variance board and
That's how we did the
if each one has to file a $25 documentation fee, hey, we got $50 revenue for the county that we didn't have before. But if I don't want it, then there's some safeguard. If it's violating one of those things there. Because I guess if this thing is if they're gonna be pumping 12 million tons, I don't know that my calculator can even handle that, and I've heard anywhere from $50 to $165 a ton. I'm not really feeling too sorry for them if they have to go 1 mile or 2 miles or whatever to work with a landowner that sees value in this project. I do not. I think that it's just, you were talking about the shell game earlier. Okay, well, we got this pot of federal funds. How are we gonna spend it? Oh, let's take this stuff and transport it 2,100 miles and put it in the ground. Oh, and by the way, there may be underground bacteria that will digest the CO2 and produce methane. So now we're gonna have pockets of methane in the soil. And if it doesn't turn to methane, I learned in chemistry class and so forth that if you take carbon dioxide and water, you get cobaltic acid. That's not good. Or carbonic acid, excuse me. I misspoke. Carbonic acid, that's not good. And it potentially can pollute our groundwater. And we think we got problems with the air. What are we gonna do if we got problems with the groundwater? And gravity goes from north to south, at least that's the way the Mississippi and the Missouri run. Are those gonna pollute potential aquifers? I don't know. I've got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Every time I ask a question, oh, well, we're looking into that.
Oh,
Get back to that. It's just, I just want the sanity to stop until we get some answers. If we get some answers and I prove wrong, I will be the first one to say, oh, okay, I misunderstood. Thank you for, but nobody has asked or answered any of the questions that I asked.
And now with the new IUB board in place, things are gonna take a little
Yeah.
change there too. but we
And
don't-
how we can have the two new members be caught up to speed in such a short
One of
period
them
of time.
the chairman already.
I mean, somebody blowing the railroad whistle.
Well, what do you guys
Okay.
think? Should we, get it on the agenda to discuss the potential?
We're gonna discuss safety or wrap this up, and we're gonna.
Yep. Only way we can discuss it and take an
So
action
that's-
is to have it on the.
What's the
agenda.
board's pleasure?
Doesn't hurt to have it on the
Discuss,
agenda.
say, just
have
a
our attorney
discussion,
here.
safety, the
Yes.
next meeting,
Yes. Yes.
that would be on.
Make sure
the-
Colin's here, I guess.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, Colin or Martha,
Or Martha, that's fine.
on the 10th,
11th
11th,
is a Monday.
11th,
Discuss what? Pipeline safety?
Yes,
pipeline.
possible ordinance,
potential ordinance.
potential,
Okay.
just, get.
That'll probably give us, that'll probably get us,
Have some routing and
What?
setbacks.
Safety, or we
So
going
that would
setback?
be part of that.
won't that be all the same thing?
Safety and setbacks.
Discuss it all or
Discuss
not?
both of them.
Just ask what we're putting on the agenda, safety or setbacks or.
Can we have both?
Both?
Let's not limit ourselves.
You have to.
Setbacks are safety.
Setbacks and safety. How's that, Madam Auditor?
all I'm reason is, I mean,
Don't want to talk about anything that's not on the agenda.
on the agenda, okay.
We don't have to talk
that'd be
about it. if we don't
So,
want to.
Tim, what do you think if Shelby County is successful in their ordinance, when it all goes to court? If they're successful in what they have, what's the future for the pipeline for Shelby County?
As I would see it, then they're not going to just say, oh, the shortest distance for our pipeline is point A, point B, we're gonna just right up through Shelby County and to whoever be danged. It's gonna be, okay, so we now have to respect that, oh, we don't want this pipeline, so then they're gonna have to look for an alternate route.
And I've been told that it won't come through Crawford and Shelby is successful.
Okay,
I'm just saying.
so if that is the case, then landowners that have already been paid keep their money.
I have no idea.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely they do.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Has there been a bona fide value of tax revenue?
There's been several numbers thrown out.
Yeah, nothing,
Nothing installed.
Having it still two
nothing.
different
Yeah.
numbers by our.
Fred Flintstone didn't carve it, so
So
nothing in stone.
There'd be some revenue, but there's a huge difference in what pipeline says will bring in and what Dwayne says.
I think we can discuss it.
I don't know, did I answer? I mean, I guess if this thing is gonna be so wonderful, then they better be paying for it. Why should it only go to a select few? I guess that's what I'm thinking, is that if it's gonna go through, then you know what? Our avenue, it better be a double lane highway. Because when I pass that pipeline, I wanna be on a smooth road and I don't wanna be distracted with potholes and so forth when I'm looking up at my crop damage. And I'm sorry, I'm being a little facetious, but there's gotta be something more for the people that this is being fast-tracked on. And I get it. If you want it, great. I don't have a problem with that. But just because they're saying that we can do this to you, yeah,
Well,
our playground.
I'll
we
go back,
determine the
I'll go
rules.
back to one of your earlier comments, Tim. We don't want the tail wagging the dog on either side.
Yeah,
We want to be just on the whole circle. So I would say that if that's Lindsay's here reporting for Summit, the 11th, we're going to discuss it. There'll probably be a long meeting. Bring your lunch box. So, but I would just say that, I mean, I'm open to discussing this for a month. I mean, I think that it's
well,
important.
unfortunately, we
it's
don't have a
important.
month. If
No, I'm
August
saying
22nd is
in
gonna be
a meeting that lasted a month, I can handle it.
Okay.
However, you know, I think that the folks in Crawford County need us to be looking on their behalf, not ours individually or yours individually, but ours, the whole county. And that's what we'll do. So we'll have a meeting on the 11th, put it last on the agenda before discovery or before citizens input. That way we aren't waiting on something else that is a, county business. Okay? Any other questions? Anybody else have anything? Now, Mr. Munt does.
Not that I wanted to make this going on. But this board already came very close to putting an ordinance together.
Correct.
Are the reasons that you didn't do that, have those reasons changed?
I don't know.
I think
We
we're
wanted
waiting
to matter. Whatever we do, we want it to matter and make a difference.
Yeah,
And if we throw a bunch of money to the wind and it doesn't make any difference, then what
We
do
have-
we gain?
we have 2 new board members. That'd be one thing difference.
Oh, they were on here.
They were here.
Were you guys here?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. That's not true. I misspoke.
I think that new facts have come forward since, we kind of set it aside. I think when we originally talked about it, we didn't know what was happening. And it changes every time they all get together. And so I think it's time we revisit it and make sure that we are doing what we're set out to do and protect the citizens of Crawford County. Take another look at it and see see what we can do. So we'll look at it again. We've already done some of the work, so that's the good news.
Well, I guess as far as reasoning though, I mean, you received legal advice that said, don't do it.
Yep.
Has that changed?
We received legal advice to what?
About the ordinance?
To not do it, is that what you said?
Yeah, that was my understanding, is you sort of shied away for legal reasons?
For me, they were saying that,
Changed his mind yet or not.
well, but we were always told PEMSA was taking care of all of it. We didn't have to worry about it.
That was the safety side of
Yeah.
the equation.
Their safety
That's what we were
laws
told.
pre-exempted anything we set forward,
Right.
making ours meaningless, so
That's what we were told.
And now we
I
find
spend a
out
bunch
that,
of money on something.
Now,
that we're not
potentially that's
gonna have.
not true, so we'll have to put Cullen to work.
so that's kind of, in my opinion, that's one of the points that was brought up with the, that's
I
where.
don't ever remember anybody telling me that PHMSA was in charge of more than safety of the pipeline.
Yeah.
I don't remember them saying that they were
Well,
gonna pick her out. I don't remember anybody
I don't
telling
remember
me,
that.
saying they were gonna, yeah.
The safety aspect, I mean, as far
PHMSA is
as,
the safety side.
you know,
And when we were trying to write a safety ordinance, we were told PHMSA would do that.
yeah.
So,
And that would be part of the setbacks, but now he said 50 feet is the only setback that PHMSA's got, which may or may not be,
so with that, maybe we can do something.
yeah. I mean, can we override that 50?
Well, that's.
That's why we probably need to have Cullen to,
Well,
Are
we
we going
definitely
to-
need Colin.
Are we gonna say the highway's gotta move too? There's a lot of hazardous waste and stuff goes down on Highway
No, I
30
get
and
it.
141.
I get it. And
That's
that's the railroad, probably
would.
more so
Discussion for
Anyway.
for next week.
Yep, yep.
2
We'll have
weeks. 2 weeks.
gather full of our
In
facts.
2 weeks, well, it gives Cullen extra time to. Dan, did that solve your, we want to make sure you got plenty of article for your first.
Oh, you always provide.
So, hey, I guess before we adjourn, I just wanted to bring up with Dan and the newspapers. I know that earlier in the year, we approved the newspapers that we publish our public information in.
Yes,
And how do we, or can we change that mid-year without approval? It seems like, I mean, now we have the Harrison County paper or the Woodbine Journal, whatever it's called, which is currently in the, in the Denison area. We have a new Denison area newspaper that's opening up. Why can we, or how do we go about the process of moving those public notices from one paper to a different paper?
We need to check the Iowa code and see what it
Okay.
says.
Yeah.
I think it directs us by circulation, it directs
And
us.
subscription.
I think when I read it.
So you know what the Iowa, what I can look up?
So
I
many
don't know what
Right,
it is.
subscribe.
I have to search it. I don't
That's
know
where
what
I
it
find
is.
it. Iowa
I
code.
do think we may not
Yeah.
qualify because we're free.
I think so too.
distribution.
Right,
Because
they
we
wouldn't
will
have
free
to
to
do
have
Or you have to be an
circulation.
accredited.
You have to have subscriptions, so many subscriptions and they're free press and stuff.
However, if you wanted to pay us to.
They would gladly accept our money.
More than happy to do it. And I'm not even really joking when I say that.
We could tell.
I try to give you plenty. That'll generate readers.
Thank you. I just didn't know where to look.
No.
All right.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Now you got that question. Any other questions to be brought before the board?
I move we adjourn.
Thank you. You didn't have anything? Okay. Motion was made, second by Ms. Hayden. Dozark made the motion, second by Ms. Hayden. All in favor, state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair votes aye. Have a great day.